Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the podcast where we chart the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones.
John Campbell, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing all right. After a protracted visit with our old friend Dan Curtis this week.
Is he our friend?
I thought he was.
No, I have to put him in the friend category because I do love Dark Shadows, as goofy as it was.
Yeah.
And I put Night Stalker on a pedestal so high, it's actually kind of disgusting.
If he did nothing else, he gave us the
Right.
Night Stalker, and that's enough for me for him to be a legend. So
Yeah, actually, local zoning boards have told me that pedestal has to come down because it is way too high.
You are not zoned for this. Where are your permits?
Yeah, a bunch of people's drones keep hitting that pedestal, falling down. Helicopters.
When I was looking for this movie, I did find the trailer for the documentary about him, which I still need to watch. I think it's called Master of the Dark Shadows. And it's about his entire career and stuff like that. I think a lot of it is about how he created Dark Shadows, but
it was probably something that was created to go along with like a VHS or a DVD release of Dark Shadows.
No,
probably.
well, let me see here. It seems like it's.
Are you calling me a liar, John?
It seems like from the look of it, it was a like feature documentary.
Well, did that feature documentary also have John Carlin in it? Because everything Dan Curtis does has John Carlin in it, even just for a little part. He's in it here.
Yes, it does. I see him listed here as one of the talking heads in it, narrated by the great Ian McShane. This documentary.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. No, this was produced in 2019. It's very new.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it's called Master of Dark Shadows: The Gothic World of Dan Curtis.
And I do want to see that.
Yeah, I gotta track this down because I would. Apparently you can watch it for free on IMDb TV. Oh, nice.
You know what I like? Free.
And I did watch Dan Curtis's Frankenstein for free on YouTube. I watched it, and specifically the only version of this in its entirety on YouTube. And most of the season, by the way, I found these movies for free on YouTube in various forms.
Well, it was the 70s, man. It was all about, hey, man, it's all free.
I mean,
hey, man.
There's a part of me that thinks about these all just aired on TV, a lot of these. So the fact that I'm just watching them over YouTube is fine. But I was watching, it had to be from the late 80s or early 90s, a screening of this movie in its entirety, not in the two parts it originally aired as. And it was clearly like a midnight horror presentation because Elvira hosted it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I watched this with intros, outros, and occasional mid-credits, mid-commercial break things. Not even factoids, just statements from Elvira.
At some point, it does tie in. As a one-off, we should talk about horror hosts. And Elvira, I mean, almost because of my age, Elvira started to gain fame when I was already well-versed in these movies.
Right.
So she wasn't my introduction to a lot of them.
Right.
But did she add something? Of course she did. Pre-MST3K, yep. I loved Elvira, still do.
Yeah, I definitely...
I would like to read her autobiography that just came out, in which she comes out. That's a big recent news. That's right. Look at me pegging where we are in the calendar.
I also just, upon researching this and stuff like that, stumbled across that article and had seen that. And
great for her.
Yeah.
And I've always loved her. She is just funny and a delightful personality.
All over TV when I was a kid. And being a kid who liked horror and kind of campy, kitschy stuff, you couldn't avoid her. And also being a maturing young man, Elvira was rather appealing.
You can leave that right there and walk away.
It was a excellent merging of my age and my interests.
No, sure, yeah, and actually, maybe everyone discovers Elvira around that time because, again, in the '80s when she was local California and then got sort of syndicated. So I didn't see her when she started. It was when she started becoming nationwide.
Yep.
So that was in my teen years too, and I was like, well, hello. I saw her movie. in the theater.
That was about the limit for me. I remember watching some of the movie and being like, all right, too much Elvira.
Well, I mean, because she's only allowed one thing. It's all about the snark delivery, and you can't have a character if all you do is that. It's just constant. You're like, are you going to be sad at some point or fall in love? Or are you just going to be snarky the entire?
Yeah, she's great for the 5 minutes before and after a movie, and maybe a couple things in between when you're like, and this is a perfect movie to be snarky about.
Yes.
I
also remember in the 80s when DC, which was about to get rid of their long-running horror anthology comics, as in House of Secrets, House of Mystery, they finally just said, look, we're probably going to cancel House of Mystery, but now we're going to call it Elvira's House of Mystery. So Kane, the original narrator character in those, got ousted, and Elvira took over the House of Mystery. So you did have these like Brian Boland covers of him drawing Elvira and be like, well, hello.
I do remember some of those covers. I never had any of the comics.
It didn't last long. I mean, it was maybe another couple years before, because that horror anthology was really
there are still
dying.
Dynamite has the Elvira license now, and they active. In fact, I want to read the new one, which is Elvira meets Vincent Price.
Yeah,
and that is like, well, I've never picked up an Elvira comic, but I will be reading this because
and he's full on drawn in a more realistic version of the fake Vincent Price,
yes,
voiced by him on Scooby-Doo, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
So great. Anyway, we went on a long tangent there.
Yeah, anyway,
that
was because it was an interesting thing where I'm like, oh, the only way I can watch this is with Elvira, and I don't mind. I've seen Elvira in person too. I didn't meet her, but at a comic convention, I did see her in the costume and everything. Because she showed up. Wow. She showed up one day as herself, and the next, like Friday, she was Cassandra Peterson. Saturday, she was Elvira, and that seemed to be when people wanted the pictures.
And Sunday, she showed up as the stripper character that she appeared on the Tom Waits album cover, Swordfish Trombones. Wait, is that the right album? But anyway,
I highly recommend, if you have any interest in her, the Nerdist interview she did maybe 4 or 5 years ago. She has a very interesting life. I mean, the book will be great at this, but just listening to her for like an hour, her talking about running away from home, becoming a Vegas showgirl, and dating Elvis, and it's really very interesting stuff. She's lived a very interesting life before any of the Elvira stuff.
Well, I'd like to give Cassandra Peterson the official Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters salute.
Yeah.
Salute!
I think we stole that.
Hee-Haw cannot, I believe, they cannot trademark salute.
No, I don't think they can. But anyway, also, if she ever has any interest in coming on a random horror movie podcast,
hell, would that be awesome?
I would love to have her. If she did a movie with us, oh my god.
Oh,
it did. I'd just have to be Elvira. She can just be Cassandra Peterson. I would love that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I don't need the beehive wig.
No.
Beehive wig. She's just she's one of the people that, and it is appropriate for this podcast to talk about her because she really did mainstream love of like the B movies, the stuff that got overlooked of the horror sci-fi genres.
Between her and later,
all horror hosts do that.
Yeah. But she was the one that did it nationwide. She was the one I saw as a kid after the horror hosts were kind of gone for the most part.
Yeah,
or at least on the
Channel
way out the door.
5 in Nashville, Tennessee, when I lived when I was like 10 or 11, they had their local weatherman. It was just like Count Floyd. He was the Count. Floyd. He was the Count of 5, which I always thought was a very funny thing. He would dress up as Dracula in a very 1970s way, and he would introduce. He wasn't as funny as anybody like Elvira or Joe Flaherty.
No,
but yeah, he was like,
I don't think he probably had the
writing.
But
tonight we're going to watch Invasion of the Pod People, and I'm like, great.
There is a great. I think it's just called I think it's Horror Host Confidential. Maybe there's a great documentary about the history of local horror show hosts.
Oh, with Ghoulardi and
talking about a ton of them from different spaces and how it started and spread, and it's a really interesting documentary I watched a few years ago. So
I will have to check that out.
Yeah, it's very good. So you can check all that out.
John, I hate to tell you, but we have to go back to 1973.
No, why?
Oh.
Thank God, this is only 1 week, though. I could not have done another week of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, they did show this in 2 parts, but like John said in our last episode, since they air, I mean, this one only ended up, if you combined both parts, and when I say only, it's still painful, but 2 hours. So it was something we could and did watch in one go. So
I will say though, it's 2 hours 5 minutes without the commercials and the 2 parts together, and that is longer than most movies we cover, and it felt it, because it felt like it was totally 6 hours long.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that's interesting. I don't know if you looked up anything about this movie.
No, I didn't.
Okay. I have a couple of pieces of. There's not much out there about this movie.
But I do know.
I did find a couple things. Which, the first, we should say this was aired not as a movie unto itself, but as part of ABC's Wide World of Mystery. Which is, if you're trying to find it on IMDb, this is how I discovered this. You can't, because you have to go to ABC's
Wide World of Mystery.
Find
IMDb
these 2 episodes of it.
Yeah.
There is a Wikipedia entry for this movie as a movie.
Yeah.
But on IMDb, it is that.
Which has, as you say, almost no information on it.
Yeah, just very little. The only thing that was said is in the reception of it. At the time, it was seen as the far inferior of the two, because it aired the same year as Frankenstein, the True Story, which we covered. So this was seen as the shittier of the two. And it is, production-wise.
It is and is not.
Absolutely, production-wise. You can see this is the much, much cheaper one. And not that the other one was a masterpiece by any stretch of imagination. But we did talk about the sets were pretty good. You know, the costumes and stuff like that.
Well, we can't forget, and of course it had an amazing cast. But this one we can't.
This does feel like the B thing on the surface with the cast. With this, as soon as Bo Svensson's in anything, it feels B tier to me. And I, as previously said, I love B tier camp stuff. So I love me some Bo Svensson. And you know who really loves Bo Svensson, because he's still giving him work, is Quentin Tarantino.
Of course.
Yeah, he's been in multiple Tarantino movies.
And he's always listed as the giant. He's always listed as the giant.
He is a gigantic man.
He is a giant man.
I primarily think of him as the guy who took over for Joe Don Baker in the sequels to Walking Tall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's true. He was the next Buford Pusser.
Which I love that Buford Pusser was a real man.
Yeah, named Buford Pusser.
And they made a movie about him.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we should make sequels. Well, I don't know if anything else happened to him. Whatever, we'll just make shit up about this guy now.
Well, you remember they started making more movies about Lou Gehrig after Pride of the Yankees. The Further Adventures of Lou Gehrig.
Well, I do think about it in the same way that, like, there was a Wyatt Earp TV show, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Wyatt Earp did have a number of really exciting adventures.
Well, if
in
you're
reality,
talking about anyone from the Old West, as in real historical people.
But I'm saying Buford Pusser almost became the modern version of one of those
it's
guys.
true. They were instantly fictionalized.
Yeah.
I mean, while they were still alive. So it's true with Buford Pusser, too, where it's like, dude, he didn't do all that nonsense. He didn't go up against Mexican cartels or whatever the fuck he started going up against.
And cool thing, and he did clean up his town.
He cleaned up his town with a big old piece of wood.
I feel like the other guy that's a little bit before that, the same thing as Elliot Ness, right?
Sure.
You know, I love the Robert Stack Untouchable series, but like even the fucking pilot where he takes on Al Capone isn't accurate. Even the Costner movie isn't history.
Not a single thing called The Untouchables, including the original book, which Elliot Ness worked with a ghostwriter to do. Even that, he allowed his own story to get fictionalized for that just because he needed the money. Mm-hmm. So, almost nothing called The Untouchables
finally
has anything to do with the true story.
Finally, right now, Showtime is developing a historically accurate limited series about...
Sadly, it'll probably be a little boring because the truth was much more boring than Kevin Costner throwing whatever his name was. Oh, Frank Nitti.
Their
off
version
the
of Frank Nitti,
roof.
which had nothing to do with Frank Nitti at all.
No, of course not.
That movie is one of my favorites. That movie rules.
Oh God, it's awesome.
But the show is doing what this book that I read that is based on did, which if you want to excite it up a little bit, it is paralleling Ness and Capone. So you still get all the crazy violent Capone shit. And then some of the Ness stuff to keep the excitement going, I think, is a lot of the Capone stuff will be your bloodletting in it, though.
Yeah. And Ness will be like, I don't know. You can look into his taxes. I don't know.
Yeah, you do things like when I read that book, you do read things about like, oh, Ness didn't even carry a gun. And you're like, oh,
yeah, yeah.
thrilling.
Oh, all those photos of him breaking open those barrels. He wasn't even there when the place got raided. He got ushered in, and then he posed for the press cameras.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, all right,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah. I'm
not saying he wasn't heroic,
and
wasn't.
he was very smart, and that
Yep.
was an ingenious way to catch Al Capone, and
Yep.
but I prefer in my head he's still Kevin Costner,
Yep.
with a shotgun riding on a horse to the Canadian border,
Yeah.
and Sean Connery taught him how to be a badass. So
Yeah.
anyway,
And if ever someone loses their baby carriage, don't worry about it. He's got it.
he's got. I mean,
And if not him, Andy Garcia will catch it at the bottom of the stairs.
right after throwing a gun in midair to Kevin.
Dude, don't. I want to do an entire podcast about the Untouchables. We can't. We can't.
And that sequence is a masterpiece.
You know what we need to do is we need to go. I'm the one keeping us on track. We need to go to Ingolstadt in 1850, whatever, 6.
Yeah, who cares what year it is? Basically, is the attitude here. Or
it
where
is
it
so
is.
Weird.
The accents are all over the place in this one.
Sure.
At least everybody was canonically and consistently British in the last one. This
Right.
one, holy shit, we got British people, we got American people, we got whatever accent Bo Svensson has. I believe he's Swedish.
Well, sure. And he's also, since he's, it's not a bad affectation. His face is right for this character.
Oh,
but
visually and physically, Bo Svensson's a great choice.
He does the Bill Murray Carl talking out the side of his mouth thing. So that helps.
It really distracted me the whole time. I'm just going, what?
Otto, Victor, Otto.
And then you've got him as the creature. Oh, he is in The Great Waldo Pepper. I like that movie.
I like The Great Waldo Pepper.
Obviously, that's a Redford vehicle.
Yep.
Because that guy was a star. I like making very obvious statements like that. Robert Redford, he sure was a captivating movie star.
Paul Newman, that guy's going places. He's got moxie.
Hang on, I've only watched movies up to 1950. How does it go? Don't spoil anything for me. I hope this Newman really turns out to be big.
This young, handsome guy on Twilight Zone playing Death. And I think he's really got something.
Speaking of somebody who's got something, boy, Robert Foxworth is swinging for the fences on this one. He's playing this to the back of the house.
Well, he is and isn't. It just depends on the scene.
So
that becomes very uneven.
It is uneven, but I did find him refreshing compared to the piece of wood from the last 2 weeks. That guy was boring as fuck. Foxworth, if anything, the inconsistency of his performance at least made it unpredictable.
That's true. And one thing I'll also give him credit for, this is, I will say, as the guy who's always a stickler, this version is pretty darn faithful to the novel.
The biggest thing that comes up in the IMDb user reviews for this. And it actually has a pretty high IMDb user number, which it shouldn't, purely because people are just going, the most faithful adaptation of the novel. And I'm going like, yeah, but who cares if it's this boring and shoddily made?
Yes, it's true. It's like the novel, you can do a faithful adaptation that still has a pulse. Yeah. And this did not.
Yeah.
But the thing is that this was very faithful. But the thing I think is really amazing about Robert Foxworth in this is he was so dedicated to his part. Mm-hmm. He said, make sure my hair is still 1973 poofy, permed. Oh my God. I could not. I mean, it was what Robert Foxworth looked like. You look at any performance he's in, he's got the same hairdo.
He does. There is a great photo of him, if you go to his IMDb, of him standing next to Jack Lord in an episode of Hawaii Five-0, and it is the poofiest his hair has ever looked, and he's got a big old mustache. And I'm like, that is as 70s as it gets right there. And Jack Lord definitely looks exactly as he did in 1960, because Jack Lord never didn't look like Jack Lord. That pompadour of hair.
I was always disappointed in Hawaii Five-0 that he didn't have the big ladies cat eye sunglasses.
I'm so glad
they
you
had his
brought up
Felix Leiter.
Leiter's lady sunglasses in Dr. No is like, oh my God. That ruins whatever cool Jack Lord is bringing to the screen.
Felix Leiter was a metrosexual, and the thing is that Jack Lord knew it.
Here's the other thing about Robert Foxworth. I looked him up, still with us.
Oh, that's nice.
And I was like, what's he been up to? Well, he's had a very consistent job
for
the past several years as the voice of Ratchet in the live-action Transformers movies.
And the video games.
And the Universal Studios ride. All of them, Foxworth's like, anytime Ratchet appears, you call me. You understand?
I love the idea that since 2007, he's like going, I found who I am as an actor. And who I am as an actor is Ratchet. But he was also Professor Emil Hamilton, the scientist friend of Superman in Justice League Unlimited.
Which is very cool. He was Ambassador Veloz. He was a Vulcan, as if I even have to say that, on Star Trek Enterprise.
We will also just say, I mean, we're going to probably mock him all the way through this, but Robert Foxworth, great long career, and
and I've liked him in things, certainly.
Yes, and he was very much a TV face.
Yeah.
Not that that's in any way a bad thing.
Oh, I see a Columbo on here, of course.
Oh yeah, of course he was in
Gotta have
Columbo.
a Columbo. Not till '89 though. That's much later Columbo.
Late, yeah.
And he actually has a pretty booming career as a voice actor. It seems like. He was the voice of Race Bannon in The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, which is the one that was on when I was a kid. I watched the old ones too on Cartoon Network, but that was the one that was new when I was a kid, and that was my dad who loved the original show as a kid going, this is not as good.
It's true, my friend. I know that you watched one before the other, but no, the originals are great, and the remakes were shit.
There's a thing. There are some aspects I like of this late '90s one. I do like the inclusion of Race Bannon's daughter because they need a girl.
Well, they needed female characters.
Yeah, I think that's a good call though.
Yeah.
You also had a great voice cast I see here because George Siegel was Dr. Benton Quest.
That is a good voice cast. It's a pretty damn great voice cast.
Robert Patrick was in it.
I think in original Johnny Quest, the only female character was Jezebel Jade. Is that?
I believe
right?
that's correct. Yeah,
one female.
And
she was like the anti-race.
Yeah,
and they had like a kind of a flirty thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Flirty as Race Bannon ever got.
I know. I always wanted to see them consummate that.
Well, again, I've read your fan fiction, and
also the last thing I will say about Robert Foxworth, he was in a relationship with Liz Montgomery for 23 years till her death. So not bad.
Yeah, they were a long time.
He landed Samantha from Bewitched.
He did all right.
Nice, Robert Foxworth. Nice job there.
Not a bad job for a guy from Houston, Texas. Boy, he came from Houston. You could tell. I gotta say, when you're watching this Frankenstein picture, you can tell that's a Houston boy. I was sitting there going, that kind of poofy hair, you only get that down in Texas.
He is definitely trying to affect this sort of, I am Victor Frankenstein, though, sort of.
Well, what's weird
trying
is
to be
there are
regal
moments,
and intelligent about it.
There are moments you're expecting Victor Frankenstein intensity that he doesn't give you. And then he'll be Victor Frankenstein intense in scenes where you're like going, well, this isn't really where I would have put that.
You mean every scene with Elizabeth? Like every scene with Elizabeth, he's always like, I cannot tell you about my work.
I know.
Don't you understand?
And you're like, and yet when the creature comes alive, he's like going, oh, look at that. Well, he is alive.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
The thing I like about this Victor Frankenstein, ever ready to just give up on whatever he's doing, where it's
every
like one
couple of seconds.
Lightning blast, the thing doesn't come to life. He's like, oh well, burn it and all the equipment, destroy everything. Yes. It's
destroy
over.
my notes, burn all the equipment, get rid of the body.
It's not even. It's not. It didn't work this one. What a great scientific attitude.
Victor Frankenstein goes, I'm inventing this term. This was an epic fail.
And he looked right at the camera when he said that. I thought that was very...
He did.
And I was like, oh, that's where that came from.
Hashtag Frankenstein whoops.
That's
going to be my new podcast without you, John. I'm sorry. Yeah, hashtag Frankenstein whoops.
Well, you have my blessing on that. I think that will be
sir.
Excellent. Yeah. You could just do an entire podcast of bad Frankenstein adaptations and call it that, though, because there are... I was also thinking, there really hasn't... I can't think of a solid modern day Frankenstein, when you're using these modern terms in relation to this story, you could do it. It would be interesting.
Well, you mean like a modern update?
I mean, set in modern day.
Set in modern day?
Like the
no,
Sherlock or the Dracula,
Yeah.
There was that backdoor pilot TV movie, which we might cover on here. If you remember this, with Parker Posey, that was like Frankenstein, the crime pursuit. That was Dean Koontz's Frankenstein, I believe.
No, I think that was a competing project to Dean Koontz's Frankenstein, which also did get filmed and turned into a series. Dean Koontz's Frankenstein does launch off the original book, as in it is a modern day story, but the doctor and the creature are both from 18 whatever.
I remember watching this.
Frankenstein becomes a cop in that one too, or a detective.
I think I am thinking of the same thing. It's just, let me see here.
I think there were competing. Frankenstein is now Frankenstein's creature is now a cop show.
2004. Yeah, this is it. Dean Koontz's Frankenstein with Parker Posey. And Adam Goldberg. That's who her partner was. Who was real sarcastic, as he was in the 2000s. Remember that guy? He had a real run there for a while.
He did. God bless him.
Yeah. He was always the guy in movies where I'm like, I guess I'd be Adam Goldberg. In Saving Private Ryan, I guess I'm Adam Goldberg.
All I'm going to say is I went to some sort of performing art thing, some sort of, was it stand-up or spoken word in L.A. a million years ago, and there was Adam Goldberg at a table with Julie Delpy.
Oh, yeah, and they did that movie together, 2 Days in Paris or something.
They were a couple.
Yeah, and the movie was based on their experience of him being a neurotic New Yorker in Paris. I remember that sort of being the...
But I remember in real life looking at them going, God damn, fate is kind to some. Anyway, moving on.
That didn't last, though, because when she made the sequel, 2 Days in New York, suddenly Chris Rock was her partner in it, not...
Whoops.
Yeah, things happen. Anyway, we have to cover this movie because I now see that Martin Scorsese was one of the executive producers on this version of Frankenstein, and apparently he attempted to get his name off of it.
Wait, what? Oh, you're talking about
the Dean Koontz? Yeah, okay. 2004.
I was sitting there going, nowhere did Dan Curtis and Scorsese get together and talk about this piece of whose he was. Okay.
So anyway, I just add that to when we get to the 2000s, just because I want to see something so bad Scorsese tried to get his name taken off of
it. Now, despite the fact that you watched like an Elvira version, did your version have any kind of intro? Because this thing just jumps in.
No, my version is literally, it was Elvira spoke for about 5 minutes, and then I thought something was wrong because boom!
Because it's almost like in the middle of a sentence. You cut to Victor Frankenstein in some
I thought, oh,
scholarly.
Shit. I thought for a second, oh shit, did the guy taping this cut off the beginning of this, or didn't I didn't get it right? But I'm like, but he got the whole Elvira introduction, and it seemed to fade from one to the other. But I have never seen anything start this instantly.
Yes.
I mean,
we are in a classroom,
a amateurish mistake of a movie.
I think it's supposed to throw you into the action. Not that there's action.
The first jump scare is the movie starting. And I will say the last jump scare, I was not startled or frightened by anything.
I love the idea of the guy in the editing bay going, "Whoa,
Jesus!
Oh, this works."
Yeah. Oh,
it works. It's suddenly Robert Foxworth is just talking.
I'm already. God, the thing started. I'm already on edge.
Yeah, there's no moody intro. There's no music. There's no title. I mean, you do get titles eventually, but essentially, we're just in the classroom, and Frankenstein is standing there with his old professor saying, "Gentlemen, shut up. Dr. Frankenstein's paper is amazing. Even though it's heretical, he's up for a big award." And they're all going, he's crazy, blah, blah, blah.
There's a lot of harumphing old man at the beginning of this thing.
Yes, and within 2 seconds, the thought that crossed my mind was, holy shit, this is shot on video.
Yep.
And this is what I'll say. I do know that Dan Curtis, also this was the early 70s.
Dark Shadows.
Yes. Also, a lot of TV movies were, because video at the time was new, and it was a budget thing. It was so much cheaper.
The entire the whole explanation of this movie is it's a budget thing. I think. My
Yes,
God,
yes.
they spared every expense on this thing.
It's very true.
It is. I mean, I've seen boring movies and I've seen cheap movies, but I'm not sure I've ever seen this particular combination of boring.
All
and
I'm
cheap.
saying is the craft service table at this movie was basically a bunch of bags of off-brand Doritos. And Bo Svensson literally was like, "Folks, 2 of those bags are just for me, okay?
Yeah.
Stay away from the
Bo's
nacho
only.
cheese
Yeah.
burritos or whatever they call them."
He tried to get that going. What if we
called
called
no
them
Ritos?
Burritos?
They're called no Ritos.
Yeah.
Look, we don't want any legal problems, so please enjoy your no Ritos.
Yeah.
So,
Whatever. And you
this
can
thing
tell
just
based on the
starts-
fact that he has no makeup on as the creature, almost really.
he just has these stitches.
He's got some scars, but keep in mind, I'm watching a very terrible VHS transfer. So
Yeah.
I was going, but I was still watching it, going like, they didn't do enough for. One of my biggest problems is how terrified everyone is of him when he really just looks like a guy who got his face cut.
Yes.
And so once again, it would be pity, not terror. You might be startled,
Similar to
but
the
he wouldn't be
earlier
like,
one.
"Die,
though
monster."
It just looks like a guy who had just a bad go of it. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, you poor
I mean,
fool.
Sarrazin looked worse than this, though. At
Well,
least-
he degraded.
Yeah,
and
it's true, yeah.
This guy stays the same the whole movie.
I mean, look, I am frightened of Bo Svensson just in general, but
people are just terrified of a tall man
Yeah.
who walked into a plate glass window.
it would be more like, what happened to you?
Yeah, exactly. That would be your
also,
first response.
Here's my favorite piece of trivia for this movie, and it has to do with the score to this movie. By Robert Cobert.
Sure.
But who did Dark Shadows and went on to do Winds of War and War and Remembrance, also with Dan Curtis and a bunch of his other stuff. We talked about his work on. He is the guy from The Night Stalker and stuff.
Well,
like
because he's the guy,
right?
He's the guy that he always used. But the interesting thing about this one that you're about to tell us,
is that none of this is original score, and it's all cues pulled from Dark Shadows and also from The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that Curtis had done right before this.
Yeah, which we have dodged that bullet.
We've talked about. We have not done Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as part of our, which maybe is a mistake on our part, but it wasn't in. We're only going based off of what was in the initial Universal box set, and they did not include a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie in there. So
no, they did not. I mean, I do agree that is another classic of genre fiction that became many film adaptations.
But we did dodge a bullet because we would have to sit through so many shitty versions of that.
Oh boy, that's another one that I think there are probably more Jekyll and Hyde films than there are. I mean, easily of Mummy or certainly Gilman.
Maybe even I think Past Invisible Man.
Yeah, absolutely. Though you have to include all the wacky comedy rip-offs of Invisible Man stuff.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get to Memoirs of an Invisible Man someday.
Yeah, we will. Which actually I remembered liking, but again, it's a long time ago.
I remember liking it as a kid when I saw it, and I loved Chevy Chase.
I was a teenager, and I was like, "Hey, Chevy Chase is so funny." Is what I remember thinking.
The most baffling thing, I have not rewatched it since. I'm about to rewatch it because on my own time, I'm just rewatching every John Carpenter movie.
That's right.
And it is the most baffling of the John Carpenter movies, maybe. One would think it's Starman. Which I like, but is definitely
Starman's a classic.
But it's not very John Carpenter-y.
No.
But Memoirs of Invisible Man really is just like, boy, he was not doing well. Around that time, he did that and Village of the Damned back to back, and you're like, boy.
Village of the Damned should have worked. I mean, the source material is good,
and he's got Superman and Luke Skywalker in it. So how
fighting, which again is what I used to do with my action figures.
Yeah. So really, it was a dream come true, is what you're saying. I need to revisit
Indeed.
Village of the Damned. I'm actually curious to revisit, just because I like.
What is that romantic comedy that had Christopher Reeve and Michael Keaton in
it?
Speechless.
I watched.
I
that
remember
a lot
watching
as a
that
kid.
movie, and it's delightful. Everyone in it is good.
They're both vying for the love of Gina Davis, who's wonderful.
But my
obviously.
brain the whole time.
It was the first Batman versus Superman movie.
Is exactly it. I couldn't, through the entire movie, which I saw it in the theater, I couldn't stop thinking that Superman and Batman sharing the screen
imagine being
together.
a child when that movie came out and seeing it and just being like, oh my God, when are they going to put their costumes on? Yeah.
We are the biggest fucking
Spoiler,
nerds.
She chooses
ever.
Michael Keaton.
Do what now?
I said spoiler, she chooses Batman. She ends up
Yeah,
Michael
she
Keaton
does.
in that movie. Which, clearly that's the case because they're the people on the poster who are kissing or
Right.
whatever, too. I mean, that's just... Also, I mean, it's fucking Michael Keaton. But
Yeah,
also
Christopher Reeve is essentially the herald of that
Yeah.
one. He's the, the other option.
The Baxter,
who's perfectly
as Michael
fine,
Showalter
but
would
not
say to
the one
us.
she needs to end up with.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah. You want to know when I really knew we were in trouble is when this cheap video overlay of a quote
Yes.
from Paradise Lost pops up.
Yes.
I'm like, oh boy. So not only is this cheap and shitty, it's got literary intention to it.
Well, okay, that is from the book as well.
It is, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yes.
it's trying to do... I'm like, oh, if they're trying to seriously do the novel and it looks this bad...
I don't mind, of course, that it's the quote, but that early video,
It's...
what is that? I mean, I
It's
think
an
it's also
overlay.
chroma key.
Yeah,
whatever
I mean,
that
it
thing
looks
is.
like an overlay. Yeah, it is a chroma.
It's so cheap.
It's
We get the quote. We also get the Ingolstadt 17 whatever. And every time you see any text on screen, including at the end, you're just sitting there going, "Holy shit! Does that look like garbage? That looks like someone did on their home.
it's the
video camera
it's the
circa the
exact
same era.
same chroma key that appears
Yes.
in the old SNL episodes when they would do those little jokes on the
Yes.
screen coming up or
Yes.
whatever, or stuff with the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, they would do the random shot of someone in the audience and be like, doesn't know that his babysitter has stolen all of his cocaine.
Yeah.
And
They
the person's like, oh, that's me.
yeah,
Oh.
it's the exact same looking text.
It's very true.
And it's
it looks
all
like
they
shit.
all had the same font. They had no control over the font, clearly. So this just reads as everything from a live TV production at this time.
It looks like something from a high school's AV department.
It was. This is what my high school's AV department, which I was part of, doing the morning announcements on video.
Yeah.
And we had shitty video machines from the 80s to do it. And
Yeah.
these were the chroma key shit we do.
I just hope you realize the privilege of your age that you grew up with. This kind of stuff looked fascinating and high tech to me as a child.
Yeah. It was utter garbage, and there was a lot of like, can we please upgrade some of this equipment?
Red Brown is the Captain America I got as a child.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
we're moving on.
Hey, I got Matt Salinger, man. So let's not, that's a
Apples
fine line.
and very terrible oranges.
I was gonna say it's not like I was exactly swimming in brilliant comic book
know,
adaptations.
it's
I got
true.
a few every once in a while.
Matt Salinger.
Oh boy.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we get the quote. The thing I thought was amazing in this one that I had hope for was we get right to he's already built the creature and everything's
Yes.
already underway. And I thought,
What's amazing
whoa!
is this movie has such syrupy, sluggish pacing, and yet the one thing I'll give it the props for is like, dude, we're just in.
Yeah.
He has the creature on the slab. He is about to bring it to life.
I know. I think because so many of the other ones, and particularly the stuff we talked about last week and the week
Yeah.
before, they spend so much time with the procedure of getting the
Yep.
body parts and building
Yes.
the machines. And here
Yeah.
I was just like, whoa, he's already finished the creature. And they're talking
already
about
finished it.
tomorrow night we're going to have a storm and light this sucker up.
He's got two assistants. He's got Hans and Otto, right?
Otto. Yeah.
And,
lest we forget who our old friend Otto is.
It's our buddy John Carlin.
John Carlin, man, with one
John
of the
Carlin,
great...
who must have just been the best friend of Dan Curtis, because I mean he's a good actor and proved it, but he's in everything. He was in Dark Shadows. He's going to be probably in Dracula as well. I mean, he just did everything Dan Curtis ever did.
Yeah,
and this isn't a big part. He's just there.
Yeah, but he is the more important of the two assistants.
True.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
Though
to
he
see
gets
if
taken out like a little bitch.
No, please don't hug me so tightly. Oh dear.
This, for the longest time, this particular creature, it is always interesting to see what version of the creature are we getting. for the longest time in this movie until the end when he's very intelligent, but then gets angry at the very end. Up until this, he is essentially Mongo from Blazing Saddles. This entire movie.
I was gonna say with the crushing of stuff, he's Lenny from Of Mice and Men.
Yes, he's also
including
Lenny.
the moment when Dr. Frankenstein debates shooting him in the back of the head after distracting him to look at something.
Yeah,
which I thought, Jesus, we're just
like,
straight up doing Of Mice and Men now.
Look at that shiny thing over there. Tell me about the rabbits, Victor.
Yeah.
This is very much like
he's in
Mongo like candy.
All right, he's in 2 other episodes of Wide World of Mystery that the Dan Curtis did as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he's in
all of Nightmare at 43 Hillcrest and The Cloning of Clifford Swimmer. I
have not seen either one.
I just love the title, The Cloning of Clifford Swimmer, because the name is great, and the idea that it is, of course, the famous cloning of a man. Not the killing, not the kidnapping, the cloning.
Cloning got it had its day in the 70s where it was such a new idea.
Oh, we've got Peter Haskell in the lead of this one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, boy, this cast. Peter Haskell, Sherry North, John Carlin.
Oh, Sherry North.
Yeah, you're
taking me back.
That's as 70s TV as it gets right there. And Nightmare at 43 Hillcrest.
Also, to our listeners, and I know you're sad to hear this, since we are covering the classic monsters, we will never cover Parts, the Clonus horror.
No.
And
no.
But I encourage all of our listeners to track it down and watch it, because it's batshit and terrible and awesome.
Nightmare at 43 Hillcrest kind of sounds good to me.
Okay, but you do that on your own
that
time,
one's got
podcast buddy.
Walter Brooke and Mariette Hartley. Oh, and Jim Hutton. I love Jim Hutton.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, all right.
Jim Hutton, the television's greatest Ellery Queen.
Oh, unquestionably.
For one season.
Unquestionably. That show was really good.
To this day, me and my brother will do a side out as if we're looking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall and going, I think I know who did it. Do you? We'll find out after, I loved that in Ellery Queen where he would talk to the camera and go, I think I figured out. I know who did it. Mm-hmm. Do you know who did it?
And of course, John Carlin, though, will always be to me Mr. Lacey on Cagney and Lacey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his character never got a first name. He was just Mr. Lacey.
No, he did have a first name. It is Harvey. But anyway, he was married to Tyne Daly for 126 episodes and a few reunion movies.
Terrible divorce.
I'm sure I talked about that last time we talked about it, but he just died last year. We just lost him at 86.
Oh, R.I.P. John Carlin.
I don't want to live in a world without John Carlin.
Me either. Word.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's already getting it going here. But the big thing is they do not have a heart to put in this monster.
No,
it's all finished. Save the heart. So he sends these 2 guys out to dig up a grave and pull the heart out of it.
I just love that this is literally he's like, there's a storm tonight, we're going to do it.
Yeah. In like
we don't have
6
a heart.
hours.
We can get a
we'll just get a heart real quick, slap that in there, and then light this thing up with electricity.
Yeah, so the 2 assistants go out to do a little grave robbing.
But, there he is. I'm going to go ahead and say the Dirty Harry of Graveyard Watchmen, because this guy shoots first and has questions later.
He really does.
As they're digging up this grave. And
he comes out with a lamp, which is suspiciously not a flame lamp. Instead, it looks like totally battery operated because it was 1973.
Yeah, and what is this? Is this Hugo who takes a bullet here?
Yeah. Is it Hugo?
No,
I thought
Felix.
It was Hans.
No, wait, Hans?
I thought it was Hans.
No, I don't see a Hans in here.
I did mention my state of mind watching it, right?
Yeah, I think this is a Hugo.
Maybe it's a Hugo.
Yeah. Played by...
But I was
going to say, wait a minute. As it says here, played by the guy who played Father Mulcahy. That's wrong. Sorry, the guy who played Father Mulcahy in the pilot of MASH and then was replaced.
Right. Yeah, and that's what his picture is there on the IMDb.
That's what threw me. I go, he must have been on MASH. And I'm like, Father Mulcahy? No, he was. Oh, just in the one episode. And then they canned his ass.
And then they got the right guy. Oh, I can't imagine anyone else as Father Mulcahy.
I can't imagine anybody else.
Except for Rene Auberjonois, but that's from the film. Okay? All right, Jesus.
Yeah. Much in the same way that
get on my ass about that.
Yeah, Donald Sutherland is a fine Hawkeye Pierce, but come on. He's not Alan Alda. That movie threw me as a kid who grew up on reruns of that show and then later seeing that movie and being like, no, wrong. This is all wrong.
Well, it's the same with me. I mean, I watched the TV show all the time as a kid because it was on, and my parents loved it. I loved it. And then eventually, when I was old enough, I saw the R-rated film, and it's great. It's Altman. It's, of course, great. But I'm sitting there the whole time going, that's not Hawkeye.
Yeah. Altman's on my list of filmmakers to go through again for like a career rewatch coming up here.
Oh, that would be a delight.
Yeah, that's one. Because I just sort of like slowly collect Criterion copies of movies, and there's a lot of
McCabe, Mrs. Miller, come on now.
Yeah.
Brewster McCloud, come on now.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff.
It's all great stuff.
I'm a big supporter of Thieves Like Us. I don't think enough people talk about that one.
Thieves Like Us. It's good.
It's got a very, very charming Keith Carradine.
Again, the worst movies he made are still better, or at least more interesting.
We talking about Dr. T and the Women?
Dr. T and okay, we're moving on.
I think that's
speaking of doctors, Dr. F and the Creature.
Yeah.
There we go.
So they bring in Hugo's been shot, and wouldn't you know it,
it's so convenient.
He's like, please take my heart.
Yeah,
I shall live
first,
on
Frankenstein
forever
does not
inside your
immediately
creation.
jump to that.
No, I thought
going,
I'm used to our Peter Cushing Frankenstein.
Yes.
Who would have this would have been a survivable wound, and he would have taken this out of the guy. He would have taken the heart out of the guy.
Actually, Peter Cushing's Dr. Frankenstein would have been the guy shooting him.
He would have known that this guy liked to shoot people, sent them there to get him killed, and then
but yeah, he's like, we can't save him, and he's like, no, don't worry about it. Just put my heart in the creature. He's like, done and done.
Yeah, they don't do much for that. So anyway, he puts the heart in the creature, and then boy, at the absolute worst time, Victor's father, his best pal Henry, and his fiancée Elizabeth all show up and they're like, we're gonna stay with you, and he's like, oh, the hell you are.
It reminds me of the 31 film, because again, it's sort of like they all show up in mass on the night he's trying to get lightning to raise his creature.
It is one of my favorite parts of the 31 movie when he's just trying to shoo them out.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Stay in here and have a dinner. And
whereas Colin Clive feels exasperated, Foxworth is just a dick to these people. Because he's immediately like, no, you stay at the inn down the town. I'll take you there right now. You hear me right now?
He doesn't deserve the love of a Susan Strasberg, who actually is not great in this movie.
She's not. I mean, to be fair, the material is terrible because she has to stay in the dark about this for so long. Both her and the character of Henry, I felt like, how is it an hour and a half into this thing and they still don't know what he's up to?
Henry's kind of on the inside of it, but really it's like literally, and when she finds out in like part 2, which of course it's the same movie, they kind of just bounce over it. Yeah. Like she like when they're hiding in the hotel, she's just like going, oh, he can't find us here. I was like, I want to see you reacting to the whole I brought a creature back from the dead kind of thing, and we don't really get that.
No, we don't. But we also get like 3 scenes before she learns that of her going like, what is going on, Victor? Can't you just tell me? Won't you just tell me?
And like, if you don't tell me the truth, I'm leaving, because I won't share you with a secret.
She threatens to leave 3-4 times. There are 2 separate scenes of her asking Henry to figure out what's going on, and you're just like, oh,
John, actually, I had to skip over a lot of those scenes because they hit a little too close to home. I've also driven away many a fiance with my terrible dark secrets that I never.
The amount of canceled weddings that I've been invited to is just like, oh, I guess we're not doing it. He won't, and I've told you so many times, just tell them the dark secrets. They can't be that bad. Never.
I just love all those save the date emails I keep sending out. Save the date.
And that's the other thing too. Every other week you're getting engaged while you're at it. It's crazy.
I'm just, you know what? I'm all about love, John. I have so much love to give. And so does Robert Foxworth.
I guess. I don't know that he ever plays romantic love in this thing.
So the lab looks okay, but again, cheap. The lightning effects look terrible in video because it's all sparks and stuff that burn out. That's the thing with that early video too. You'll get those like black burnout spots of anything.
It's what the Muppet Show looked like. And I love the Muppet Show. I'll never say anything unkind about it. But a Frankenstein movie shouldn't look like the Muppet Show.
No, unless the creature that you're raising is Beaker, which is not what we get here.
Yeah, I want to see Dr. Bunsen Honeydew raise a monster from the dead. That sounds like more fun.
I want to see Bo Svensson play Beaker. Meep,
Meep, meep, meep.
meep, meep.
No.
And
Robert Foxworth is Dr. Just these two, but as those characters.
Yes. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. So anyway, I like before when they're waiting for the storm, Frankenstein is just like, oh, by the way, we should probably come up with an excuse for why Hugo's dead.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he died mountain climbing. Yeah, that sounds right. And so that way they'll never recover the body. Great. Jesus. And they're just like, perfect. I just love the casual, like, oh yeah, we should come up with an alibi for what happened here, because
to our dear friend
dead, and people are probably going to ask what that's about.
Yeah, now that I think about it, we're his last location.
If anybody asked, he said we saw him heading to the mountain. He said, "And I'm not bringing any survival gear or supplies."
It's pretty refreshing, but also kind of lame that you don't get really at this. Why would they worry? We see no kind of like law enforcement thing going, what's going on here with all these dead people showing up and dug up graves?
I can't believe there isn't, because I don't think we've seen a Frankenstein movie that doesn't have somebody poking around from law enforcement. That doesn't really come up in this thing. Other than until the
only people
end,
who poke around are Elizabeth and Henry.
Until the end, when we need the cops to gun this creature down, they show up out of nowhere.
That's cop Deus Ex Machina.
Feels like the end of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the cops even that movie seeds the cops throughout the film.
Nope, shut it down.
Legitimately in my top 5 favorite endings in the history of film. I am obsessed with the ending of that movie. That's it, and it just goes to black for, I don't know, a couple minutes before there's even.
And I also just love the whole thing of like, well, they didn't even know how it was going to end, and then it was like a not last minute, but they're like going, oh, yeah, what if the cops just break it?
Because it's so funny the way you keep seeing the cops investigating the bodies throughout the movie.
Yes,
and you're like, that's...
and talking to the historian guy and getting it is like, nope.
And then instead of a giant battle, the cops show up, and it's like, that's it, shut it down. Which is also very consistent with the show as well. Like, that does feel like
very
this is
true.
Getting far too silly. You know, that's
yes.
the thing where it's shut it down. So I love it, man.
I would have loved if Dan Curtis had come in at the end of this and gone, "This was a terrible mistake. I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, that's
shut it down.
Nope,
shut it down.
No, you gotta go home, Bo. You gotta go home, Bo.
Bo, pleasure doing business with you. Take a couple more bags of Doritos on your way out. We're closing up shop."
That is the case if you know the history of the canon Masters of the Universe movie. That did happen. It's like, yep, and no more money. We're done. Sorry, Dolph. By the way, how did Dolph never play the Frankenstein monster?
Oh my God.
Yeah, because he's in that same Bo Svensson category.
And he could have used his catchphrase. He could have said, "I will break you," and it would have been awesome.
I must break. Yeah, the Russian version of. Duh.
We also didn't get Antarctica or a boat in this one, but I kind of knew that was going to be the case.
That is the thing. I was going to say, it's really faithful to the novel. Right up until the end when they have no money to do the climax of the novel.
And they're like going, do you think these big blocks of styrofoam work? No, this is not working.
Come on. I mean, Dan Curtis made stuff like The Night Stalker and made stuff like this. He had to know the good from the bad, right, when he was putting these together. There's no way he thought this was going to live up to.
Well, the thing is his contributions here are producing and he co-wrote or co-adapted.
Yeah.
But he didn't film this one. He didn't make it.
No.
What I think is, and I'm dreading, the Dracula we're going to watch soon.
Well, this one has me even more worried than I already was for that Dracula.
What he did well was stand back and let more talented people do his stuff. And, of course, he had a better feel for modern-day stuff. So every time he tried to do like a masterpiece theater version, this is him trying for that. I do believe he saw this as a prestige production.
Yeah.
Just like his Dracula.
I said you can feel that when you're watching it, for sure. I did look at the guy. I'm just looking at the guy who did direct this, Glenn Jordan, who is just a TV veteran. Directed tons of television. He did other episodes of Wide World of Mystery on ABC. He directed a bunch of episodes of the show Family.
Yeah, Family. I used to watch that.
He did a TV movie of Les Miserables. He did direct a movie that I only know exists because of my father's love of it, and I'm pretty sure nobody else even remembers it, which is the Richard Dreyfuss, Susan Sarandon film, The Buddy System.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad really likes that movie.
That's okay.
He did direct a movie near the end of his career. He directed a movie I did like, which was a TV movie, Barbarians at the Gate with James Garner.
Right. Yes. Right.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it is. But this guy
But
is
it's a TV movie. It's still.
This guy is a competent TV director.
I think I will bring it in on time, on budget. It'll look fine. I can do it. I think his only theatrical release was The Buddy System, it looks like.
If you took this exact same script and put money in it, hired a director with some sense of dynamism, and a better cast, no offense. I mean, these are solid enough TV people.
Oh, he also directed the Jack Lemmon movie Mass Appeal.
Oh, right. The Catholic.
Not one of Lemmon's best. And I love Jack Lemmon.
Yeah.
Obviously, the guy was a genius, but...
He was a genius and another one of the greats.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is just not...
Oh, by the way, now I'm just hitting me. Jack Lemmon as Dr. Frankenstein, Walter Matthau as the creature.
Oh, my God.
That's a masterpiece right there. That would be...
That would have been a masterpiece.
Lemmon and Matthau do Frankenstein.
Why am I so ugly? Why did you make me this way?
The whole thing would never leave the lab when it's just them bickering. Victor? I'm talking to you, Victor.
Make me a woman like yours.
The monster, for unknown reasons, is smoking a cigar the whole place. Come on.
I love the idea of, I can't, that's not even a good Walter Matthau. It's bad.
Yeah.
But I can't even do, sadly, I can't do a Jack Lemmon. But the idea of a Jack Lemmon, twitchy, stuttery Victor Frankenstein is just the best thing.
The only
ever.
thing is it's the Gil from The Simpsons, right? This kind of guy is like, what do you want me to do for you?
Well, it's just literally using the same name. There's like, it's not just Jack Lemmon. They're just doing Jack Lemmon from Glengarry Glen
And what I love about it is that they're still doing Jack Lemmon.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that character was introduced in the Glengarry Glen Ross parody, but apparently Dan Castellaneta loved doing it so much that character has existed for decades.
Anytime they ever needed a desperate salesperson, like going, come on, you're breaking me. You're breaking me. I got all this stuff.
Honey, the favorite one I love is when he goes, honey, no, I didn't make the sale, honey, but you should have heard how close Wait, what? Is that Phil with you? Ah, honey, you said it was over. No, don't put him on the phone. Hey, Phil, how's it going? The best, man.
It is indeed.
I love it. Sometimes I will just watch a montage of Gil clips on YouTube because Gil just makes me laugh. Sad sacks are funny to me.
Yes.
That's why I love
he's always
Milhouse.
got his tie askew and his shirt sleeves rolled up.
It's the same reason that Milhouse is one of my favorite characters on The Simpsons.
Yes.
He's always just like, oh, no.
Hapless losers.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Victor Frankenstein.
They raise the creature, and it's Bo Svensson.
They don't raise the creature. They do all this stuff, and then nothing happens. And this one, he's just like, all right, shut it down. Never mind. That was a huge mistake. Burn every trace of it.
They show the hand do the movement. That's a classic thing right before they cut to a commercial.
In classic, they do a push-in on the hand. It comes to life. Commercial. We come back. And it's all... The last version we watched did this, too. They love to do Frankenstein's like, it didn't work, I'll turn my back, then the thing comes to life, so he can be like, what?
What? It did work.
Except Robert Foxworth plays it like, okay, so it did work.
Yeah, he does. It's just so crazy.
Where's the energy here? Where's his Colin Clive? It's a lie. I mean, nobody relished it more than that guy.
He did actually. I mean, I think it was like, we're going to consciously, underplay. Because he does go, it's alive.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, nicely done. Mm-hmm. But this is the same problem we had the last time. We have this creature, and again, Bo Svensson physically, pretty good. Yeah. He's got that craggy, Karloffy type face too.
And I will say too, he's attempting to do something with this performance.
He is.
He's not. I mean,
I don't want to mock him too much. He is trying.
Not the greatest actor, but still, he is trying to affect a performance. I think he's actually more consistent than Foxworth in his performance.
Right. He basically does, like I said, Mongo or sort of dumb childlike guy for the whole time once he starts talking. But here's the thing. Last time it was the same thing. It's like, all right, they've just risen the creature.
Yeah.
We see a stitch across his forehead, which means, again, they put a brain in.
And they talk about the brain that they put in here.
Yeah, because it's another professor.
And
it's like the brain of another...
Well, because they look up and he's like, don't you recognize us? And the creature obviously does. And he goes, I don't understand. We put the professor's brain in. He should know us.
And it's like, oh, the professor was an astronomer, so give him this telescope. And he goes, ugh, and breaks the telescope. You're like, well, I don't think the professor's in there.
And then,
but it just bugs me that he's got full head of hair.
Oh, yeah.
After, I mean, it's like immediately a full head of hair.
There's something, and once again, there's still that Jack Pierce design is the best thought out version of what this thing would look like if you actually built it. And it's literally right on top where they put a brain in and then put a lid on it, basically.
And they've got clamps just to keep that shit down while the stitches heal.
His thought process on creating that makeup is so smart. And once again, it really was like, well, if you built a man, he'd probably look like this, and I
mean, he did. It's not what's described in the book, but it is a great, well thought out design.
Where you can start going like, well, you would have to do this if you're stitching this body together. It'd probably be this to this. Whereas here, they're just like, I don't know, put some stitches on him, I guess.
Yeah, the stitches don't even make sense. Like, you do expect to see them at joints. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
But Bo Svensson has these. I mean, it's a good look until you start thinking about why is it there. But he has these stitches on his cheeks.
Yeah.
You're like, what was that about?
Different cheeks from different people?
Like,
I really like the cheek of this
He
fellow.
needs exotic cheekbones.
Yeah.
I'm going to implant these from this other person.
Well, he did go Nordic, that's for sure, just looking at Bo
he
Svensson,
went full Nordic. And there's nothing,
I see him with a Nordic chin.
They don't do anything like different colored eyes or different colored skin patches. They don't do any of that nonsense. It's just Bo Svensson with stitches at his wrists, stitches at his neck, and it just whatever.
But I do love this
line. He looks
line
good
when they realize this after he crushes the telescope. Robert Foxworth just goes, "He's a giant baby."
Yeah, he does. He says he's just a big old baby.
Yeah.
What's really disturbing is when he then opens his shirt and tries to nurse the creature.
Yes, come on, feed from me, my creation.
Robert Foxworth with Bo Svensson's face up against his boob is something that I can't. That's gonna be in there for the rest of my life. I can't get it out.
That's not coming out anytime soon. So they're going like, oh well, he doesn't talk or anything. He can walk around. They do fine, but they go, we got to teach him to be a person.
Yeah, they're like, maybe he'll figure shit out. It's just trauma from the surgery or whatever. He'll be smart soon.
But first, he's like, all right, Otto, you watch him for a while. Yeah, I gotta go
deal with my fiance.
Yeah, and he does go talk to Elizabeth, and he's just like, oh gee, I'm sorry, you just startled me. I am happy you're here.
Yeah.
Not once again, no passion to these lines from Foxworth though. Only when he's tearing into this woman does he actually like play it. The romantic stuff he's not good at.
It doesn't play at all.
No.
And she doesn't. I mean, she does the sort of clingy thing, but there's not a lot to Elizabeth here, as opposed to at least the previous one.
Well, yeah, we liked her actually. She was one of the better parts of that last version.
Susan Strasberg, all I can do is look at her and go, "Wow!" Anne Frank grew up. Because that was her one big thing, was the Diary of Anne Frank, and being the daughter of Lee Strasberg. It was like, okay, those are her.
Oh, why was he important?
Oh, you with your, I like your funny jokes.
So anyway, so he leaves Otto, and then Otto gets Lennied here, because the monster hugs him too tight.
Yeah. But first
crushes his insides.
He teaches him a little bit of language. He goes, teaches him his name, Otto, which the creature says, Atta, Atta. He's like, yeah, that's close enough. And then they play ball, and he learns like play or game or whatever. Can I just say, every time they showed a ball, which is remarkably often.
That happens later. It's Victor who teaches him to play with the ball.
No. First, it's Otto.
No. I have a tiny little note about play ball here. You're right.
Yes. First, it's
I'm
Otto.
squeezing these words in too tight on the page here.
But that's all right.
Much like
But
the creature is squeezing Otto too tight.
It's very true. This ball, we see different balls throughout this thing. More balls than I thought I'd see in this TV movie.
Movie is
but
filled
they're
with
all
balls, man.
clearly 1970s.
Yeah,
like
they've got
vinyl
colors on them.
soccer balls.
Yeah, it's like
we're in 17. Who's he? Was he?
Yeah, 18 something maybe.
Maybe 18.
Early 1800, late 70s, early.
Sure.
I can't remember what it says at the beginning because who cares?
But it's an anachronism, just like the guy's full-on battery-operated lantern he had in the graveyard.
Hang on,
scene.
let me flip the on switch on this thing here.
But I do like Otto's like, well, I'm glad I taught you a couple things, and that was fun playing.
Yeah.
And then the creature's like, no, let's keep playing. He's like, oh, okay, let's
creature
play a little
like
bit more.
playing.
Yeah, Mongo like ball.
Oh, Mongo.
And then he does. He hugs him to death.
Yep, hugs him to death. And then Victor comes in and he's like, first off,
me. He actually
first
says.
off, that would be great. When this happens, we then cut to Elizabeth who goes, I don't know why, but I suddenly have a terrible feeling that this is all gonna go wrong. I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. What? She has premonitions now? Is this where we're going with this? It never comes up ever again in the movie. So,
right,
yeah.
That foreshadowy thing is just.
I'm just like, my God, the lazy, dramatic, cheap shit in this. Even the writing's cheap here, man.
Yeah.
So he comes in and he finds Otto dead, and he's like, my God, Otto's dead, and the creature has to be like, dead.
Yeah. I don't get that. He's like, oh, you talk now a little bit.
Yeah.
My name's Victor. Victor.
And so this is when he's like, oh, okay, creature. And once again, he's just like, all right, he killed Otto. Time to give up. Let me get... By the way, this is a real pistol-packing Victor Frankenstein in this movie. Except for, there are multiple times when I thought, well, now you can just shoot the creature right now. There are several distinct moments when he could have... Because here he thinks about shooting the creature, but he's like... Well, wait a minute. Maybe this was an accident, so let me just...
Yes, he's like, he is just a child. He didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah. So maybe I can educate him, and spoiler, he won't, because this guy murders so many people in this movie.
He does, but every time...
I think he racks up a higher body count than Karloff.
Yes, every time, except for Elizabeth. Every single time is him going, oh, no.
Well, no.
Not again.
He also takes out Henry... And that old woman.
Oh, okay, right, but that's in the I am consciously going on a rampage.
Yeah, but I do think it's I did get tired of the oh no murders.
It's like I do like that. We get
like
kid
one
goes,
of those in the Karloff. You know,
don't be dead.
Yeah,
don't be dead.
By that
Please
time, that's
dead.
like the third thing he's killed accidentally, and I'm like, oh my God, come on, man.
He has not really put it together that. Maybe I shouldn't squeeze things really hard.
How is that not an early lesson for him? You know, like I don't. It's just like it takes him forever to figure. that out.
John. Some people just never learn.
And honestly, he doesn't even learn that lesson as much as he just intentionally starts crushing people.
Yeah.
Then he's like, oh well, if I'm doing this anyway, might as well actively murder.
Yeah, I've now learned a useful skill.
Yeah.
And it's killing people by squeezing them.
Gets you pretty far in this world.
Help creature with resume.
He takes a real Patrick Bateman approach here.
Special interest.
Yeah.
Hugging till death.
Yeah, this guy's a real hugger.
He's just a cuddle bug.
So anyway, here's where he's like, all right, look. I'm going to strap you down. Then I'm going to go make this look like another act. This is the second murder that he's covering up.
Oh my God! Him covering for it
with
is
the
so
body
stupid.
over his shoulder,
Yes.
and him passing by the people that work in the house or whatever.
He goes to this hotel or inn or whatever with his buddy's body over his shoulder.
But he's put a tarp over it or whatever, so it's okay. They don't know what it is.
And it looks like a wrapped human form. And yes, locals or workers or whatever, they fully see this guy.
Yeah.
Put this thing in the room, and then he just gets out. Like, there you go. People just assume that he
Oh, no. You know what he does is he throws this thing out a window like he fell out the
Oh,
window.
yes.
That's his big
Yes.
cover, is to just hurl this guy's body, Otto's body, our pal John Carlin's body, out a window and be like, oh shit, he jumped or whatever. Like, he'd been talking about it for a while, but I didn't know he was serious.
I love the idea of him doing like a full-on like two-guy conversation in the room. Like, no, don't, Otto. You have so much to live for. No, I don't. Here I go.
Oh, dear God. My friend has jumped from the window. Why, cruel world? Yeah, I would have loved if he just really oversold it.
Think of your...
Here's the thing. This same presentation and these general beats, it doesn't take much to turn this into a full-on parody, and it would have been better for it. Yeah.
No, it really doesn't.
There is, like, I laughed so hard when he just chucked this body out the window.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that problem solved. And then Otto is never mentioned again in the movie.
It's true. There's, again, no cop going,
this, I guess,
that was a little suspicious.
This worked perfectly. Everybody's like, he fell out the window.
I kept thinking the whole time, it's like, okay, this has moments that I'm enjoying on a campy level.
Yeah.
Nothing does approach Polidori getting struck by lightning and turning into an instant skeleton. Nothing will ever approach that.
Which is so interesting for that one, because that one was so trying to be prestige.
Instant skeleton.
And of quality. And that is the silliest thing we've seen. Maybe one
Suddenly,
that's gotta
he's a spirit Halloween decoration.
I mean, that's in the running for the silliest thing we've seen in any of these movies that we've covered.
So good.
It's so goofy. No, there's nothing that approaches that. So anyway, body disposed of. Victor's on his way. But of course, while this is all happening, he already established that this thing has super strength, and he figures these little, wrist cuffs are going to keep him down on the table. He busts out of these things in a second.
He sure does, man.
And then he's out the door of the lab, and he's loose.
Which is what we're always waiting for in these movies. But instead of a full-on, like a murderous rampage, which we could have used, and we get a little bit of at the end of this thing, but this is, like I said, faithful to the novel. So again, it's just a big child loose in the world looking for a friend. He's just looking for a friend, John.
That's absolutely right.
This movie is universal. It touches on themes we can all relate to.
We of course
I myself have had stitches and been shunned for being too ugly, and I just want a friend.
Of course see the iconic scene of the creature learning fire bad because he goes and touches a flame on the ground. He's like, no.
Yeah, he just finds a campfire and shoves his hand in and is like, what? That's not nice.
Doesn't like that, and then he walks away and he finds.
Why? That's not nice.
That's not very nice fire. He walks towards then like some water dripping in a cave.
Yeah.
And he's like, nice. Go to sleep now.
Yeah.
That lulls him to sleep. He wakes up, he sees the sun, and he's like, he does wake up almost from like a hangover, it feels like, where he's like, get that sun out of my eye.
It's true.
Of course, he sees a bird tweeting. He picks it up and crushes it because why not? Like, we just keep on doing it again and again and again.
I will say this. I don't know if they put a disclaimer on this saying no animals were harmed. That bird he picked up, I'm pretty sure was an actual dead bird, like already dead.
Yeah.
Because of the way it moves when he's like using his finger to bat the head around. I'm like, yeah, this makeup department did not put in work to make such a realistic dead bird. Yeah. So, way to go, Bo Svensson, for having the gall to actually act opposite a dead bird.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen today.
No, it wouldn't.
No,
There'd be some sort of animatronic dead bird.
Yeah, because we're concerned about health and safety and things like that. And yeah, that's not cool, man. But they just they just did whatever they want back in the 70s.
They sure did. They actually killed all the children in this. So like every child that gets killed in this actually
really
was
dead.
A child
and
that
speaking of children in this, we're gonna meet William Frankenstein comes into this picture, and boy, do I want to talk about who plays William Frankenstein in this.
I know you do. I know you do.
If I get any chance, as you know, Brennan, any chance I have to talk about the legend himself, Mr. Willie Ames.
Do you mean Bible Man?
I should. By the way, IMDb photo of him looks pretty recent. He's looking good.
I mean, did he ever not look at least okay?
He went through some troubled times, I believe.
Well, okay.
I think I saw him on Celebrity Rehab, perhaps.
Before he found the Lord, John.
Yeah. No, I think that was a little bit after he found the Lord, too, but I think he's back on track now.
I mean, I can mock him all day long, but he's very much a part of the 80s when I was growing up.
For me as a kid, I was all about him as Buddy Lembeck on Charles in Charge.
There's a brand new boy in the neighborhood.
Lives downstairs, as understood. He's there just to take good care of me.
Like he's one of the family.
I watched so much Charles in Charge as a kid. I loved Charles in Charge. I have revisited.
John, would you say that it's fair? Is it fair to say that you want Charles in charge of you?
I did. I thought I need a cool babysitter.
They had such. I mean, they were really our my generation's Fordham and Ford because
because you're gonna bring up Zapped.
Of course, I'm going to bring up Zapped. What you mean? The Citizen Kane of teenagers with psychic powers making dresses fall off?
Yeah.
Movies?
Could you imagine that getting made today? There's no way in hell.
No. Of course not.
The whole thing is just. I mean, okay. I'm looking at the poster for Zapped, and it's literally.
Them peeking in the window, and he's got his finger with the little electrical thing, and the girl's skirt or whatever.
Yeah, is going up, and it's just Willie Ames with his fist, like pumping his fist, like yeah.
We're looking at ass now. I mean, it was terrible when I watched.
They're getting a little behind in their classwork.
Oh boy. I can't think of Zapped nowadays without thinking of Patrick Stewart on Extras.
Yes.
Because his entire screenplay is talking about is essentially Zapped.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course...
I sort of have mental powers like Professor Charles Xavier, only in this case.
But like in the real world, right?
Like in the real world.
I make her dress fall down. She tries to cover up, but it's too late. I've seen everything.
It's too late. I've already seen everything.
I like that in the script, it would be an instant moment where he would see it, but he would see everything. So he knows it'd be a short-lived thing, and that's it. But it's too late. I've seen everything. And then, of
course, for people listening to the podcast who, they're going to end at the end of this episode, they're going to go, John and Brendan don't want me to watch this Dan Curtis Frankenstein. Well, let me give you something to watch. Go watch the episode of Extras with Ricky Gervais.
Yes.
That stars Patrick Stewart because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
That one and the Ian McKellen one is also genius.
The Ian McKellen one's great.
Yeah.
I mean, technically they're all great. The David Bowie appearance.
David Bowie's great. Ben Stiller directing the Bosnian War movie is funny.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of really funny stuff on there.
Yep.
But
glad to help your career, Mr. Gervais. And sorry, Dan Curtis, that we're diverting people from your work.
Gervais really needs our help. I don't think things are going well for him.
He really does.
Not a lot of success for that guy. Yeah. So, we're introduced to young Willie Ames as William Frankenstein, who, do we need this character at all, man?
Well, he's important in the books, but only because he's another innocent that pays for Victor Frankenstein's hubris.
They do so little to establish him in this, and he's pretty much just like, gee, Victor, why won't you play with me?
Yes, why won't you play with me with this clearly 1970s ball that actually has like a stamp on it.
Opened up, and I got this ball from it. Gee.
A ball from the future. That's crazy.
It's a future ball.
Future ball.
Yeah, and so he's like, no, I have work to do.
He's a delight, Victor Frankenstein.
And so Elizabeth now is for the first time asking Henry to be like, will you go talk to him and figure out what the hell's going on with him?
Yeah, Henry's role in this is even, sadder, simply because, again, he's important in the book, and here he just sort of dips in and out, and you keep thinking he's going to be the Freddy.
Yeah.
because he mainly talks to Elizabeth this whole time, and is constantly going, well, I'll go talk to your fiance again. And I keep thinking, well, you'll clearly be the nice guy that, no. They stuck to the book. It's like, okay, and nothing else.
I looked this, Robert Gentry is who plays Henry in this, and he goes on to quite a career in soap operas.
In adult films, yeah.
I'm looking at, he went from All My Children to Generations.
Yeah, and
to
then
Days of Our
Lives,
and to Another World. Yeah.
And even Guiding Light.
He popped into Guiding Light for a little bit.
Yeah, this dude was Mr. Soap Opera. He's all right. I mean, he does okay in this movie.
He has nothing to do in this movie, basically.
No,
he has
really
one
nothing.
big scene where he tells Frankenstein off. But
that's pretty good.
Yeah, that
it's
actually
he's like, this is my one. Yeah. This is my scene.
Yeah. Oh boy, the whole filming of this, he's like, wait till we get to that scene. Then it's really going to be time for Robert Gentry to shine.
I love putting myself in the heads of these actors in these movies where it is that kind of thing. You can just see them sitting there going, I got to get ready for Wednesday. Look, Wednesday's the big scene.
I very, much just dip my toe in the world of acting, but I would have that. That would be my attitude.
Yeah.
It is like, all right, I'll, get a line here or there, but on Thursday,
when I deliver it,
that's when it's go time.
It's go time. I'm going to show the world just who Henry Clerval is.
I also, the little acting I've done, that is kind of how I fall into things. Is like, I'll usually get a scene and then be like, that's it for me, everybody. Goodbye.
Promise me you're not sitting there counting your lines, okay?
Look, when I get those Tesla City scripts, the first thing I'm doing... Let's see, 1, 2, yeah, I see how it is.
I don't know why we have detective number 3 when that could be me saying that line.
Do we really need this guy to be the Wraith? I think I'm right here.
Bobek assumes the powers of the Wraith. Hey, that's real inside baseball.
Yeah, it is. But do stay tuned for my next script, which might have something to do with that plot. No.
Oh boy.
So let's see here. We get this insane scene where there's just two guys who are hanging out in like a field. And then they're like, hey, look, here comes a guy. Oh, dear God, he's a monster. And they start throwing rocks at him, and he just kills both of them.
This is literally...
What is this? What the
producer
is
is sitting there going, this thing is dragging. We have to have him kill somebody soon. And you can just tell it, because, he comes across these two guys. They scream, toss rocks at him, and then he pulls one of their arms off.
Yeah. It's just like...
And a very safe TV movie way.
Yeah.
No blood. But it's literally...
Why, this man had no blood inside of him. Haha, joke's on you. I already lost that arm in the war.
Android? He just...
You thinking what I'm thinking? Yeah. So stupid. This scene happened. I was like, whoa, what? Okay. And it's over in 30 seconds too,
Yep. But there you go. There was your thrills right before a commercial break, probably.
And then out of the commercial break, we find him stumbling across the house of a very attractive blind woman.
Yep.
And then get used to this, folks, because we're going to stay here a while.
Yep.
Boy, oh boy. There's a blind woman who lives with her father. Then her brother shows up.
Again, this is the standard structure. We know to expect a scene where, at least a scene, but we get plenty of time, as you say here, of him observing a family, learning to talk.
Although they come up with this very needless screenwriting device because her brother is shown up with his fiance who speaks only Spanish.
Yes.
And this girl whose name is Agatha
the blind girl is she's like, oh, it's a pleasure to meet my soon-to-be sister-in-law. I'm going to take it upon myself to teach you English.
And as soon as she said that, I rolled my eyes going like, oh my God, that's how he's going to learn English. But that doesn't work. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't.
Because she's teaching her from Spanish to English. Well, he doesn't know Spanish. It would be the same. You don't need this. He could just observe.
Unless it was
and learn the
constant visual input. If it was constant, like,
but she doesn't
the
have
blind girl holding
flashcards.
up a spoon and going, spoon.
Yeah, maybe.
Spoon.
But because this is them trying to be true to the novel in that he does just observe this family and learns to speak. in the book, I believe it's the father who's blind. It's the old blind man, which is where they take that in the other versions. Here, of course, it's a young, hot, blind girl.
But again, they still are being very genteel. He doesn't fall in love with her. He just does, again, see her as like friend. I would like to be her friend because she seems nice.
Asexual.
She's a nice lady.
Even when he asks for a woman, it's just to be his friend.
Yeah.
It's not to...
But we know what it's about, right, John?
Yeah.
We'll talk about this off mic, but we know what it's about. That almost sounded like a kind of like a guitar that has like a flanger kind of thing on it. Like you were like a waka waka kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you were getting with that.
Were you trying to go somewhere smutty with it? I was just doing a guitar transition.
I was just doing some vintage guitar licks.
Listen to this.
But anyway,
so
he learns English.
Yeah,
I mean, or I guess
fast.
it should be German or whatever.
Pretty fast. Because
he knocks on the door and says, "Oh, hello.
Yeah, because
my name is Giant, and I would like to speak."
He
to
does
the lady
do that,
about
but first we have to cut back to Victor Frankenstein saying, "Oh, Elizabeth, we can finally be together because I've put all the experiments behind me. Don't you
and she's
worry."
like, "You gonna tell me what they were?" Nope.
No, of course not. But then, of course, right when he's saying that, Henry comes in going, "Well, I was just down at the bar, and the craziest thing, a couple of guys said they were attacked by a giant." And Robert Foxworth whirls around and is like, "What?
Yes.
Tell me more. I must hear every detail."
Oh, Dr. Frankenstein, for a man who's so brilliant, you might want to have learned a little chill.
Because
just a little bit of chill.
In classic Foxworth fashion, he's
Robert
playing...
Foxworthy? Jeff Foxworthy?
You might be a Frankenstein.
You might be a mad scientist if you pass a bunch of dead bodies and think, well, that's a nice shin.
Because you just might be a mad scientist.
You might just be a mad scientist.
You got vials of bubbling colored liquid of various kinds. You just might be
also,
a mad scientist.
As long as we're talking about dream casting, Jeff Foxworthy as Dr. Frankenstein
and Larry
the Cable Guy
as the creature. And we'll get Bill Engvall as Henry Clavell.
Yes.
I don't know about this there, Victor.
What's his name? Taters. That guy.
Ron
he
White.
Passed away. Yeah, we can't get him. Sorry.
Ron White. Yeah.
R.I.P. Ron White.
I guess he was the oldest. I guess he could be Baron Frankenstein in the imaginary version.
Oh, yes, he could have.
Yeah.
Listen here, son. With the glass. Yeah, with the glasses, and it's like, here's the house of Frankenstein. Gluck, 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 gluck.
Man, why didn't we get more? The blue collar comedy does, whatever classic story.
A Frankenstein. Oh man, if they started adapting stuff, it would have been like the National Lampoon brand.
It's where they could have gone with this, man.
Oh, dude, why are we doing all of Hollywood's thinking for it?
I know. Come on, this is money on the table, people. I did see an ad for Bill Engvall doing his final "Here's Your Sign" tour, and I was just like, why ever retire that bit? Like, just like, is Jeff Foxworthy ever going to stop doing the "you might be a redneck"? No, why would you?
No.
That's you can just keep replicating that forever.
In a theater somewhere in Branson, Missouri, for the rest of time.
There will literally always be an audience. I didn't say I'm part of this audience, but there will literally be an audience.
Thank you for that disclaimer, John.
Yeah. I did watch the Jeff Foxworthy show.
I saw a lot of hands reaching for the off button.
Yeah, I did watch the Jeff Foxworthy show a lot as a kid because I just watched pretty much any sitcom.
Sure. It was on.
It was. I remember it being fine. I can't remember.
You're a huge fan of Grace Under Fire.
I have not watched that in forever.
Okay. All right. You're in the clear.
It did have Dave Thomas in it, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Man, some people you sit there and you go, I'm so glad you're getting work, but this is the work you're getting.
I know, it's
and
one of those things where you're going like, he's a better writer than anyone working on this.
Oh, than any of them.
Yeah. Than Chuck Lorre, who was showrunner on that thing.
Oh, fuck that guy. Ooh, did I say that?
Oh, whoa, that came out rather quickly.
I know. Oh, well, we had an altercation.
Oh, no. That's a story
let's just keep on moving.
That's
keep on moving.
Mike. Composer of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song, Chuck Lorre.
Heroes on a Half Shell?
Yeah, Turtle Power. So yes. So now Victor doesn't have any chill. We do get they're having the wedding of these people now that she's learned English. They can marry.
Right.
And so the creature's observing the wedding, and this guy insists on dancing with Agatha the Blind Girl, and she's like, I can't. And
he's like, oh, come on, it'll be simple, and I'll walk you through it. It'll be great.
Instantly falls into like a bookshelf.
Yeah, and I do like her going, I wish you would listen to me.
Yeah.
I know my limits of
Yeah.
the things I can and cannot do.
Well, but then she goes outside, and her father's talking, and she goes, look, I know because of my blindness, there are things I'll never have. I'll never be able to dance or marry. Who would ever marry? I'm like, she's very attractive, and seems very sweet-natured and nice. Like,
I'll never know a penis.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I think some guys could get over the blind thing.
Yeah,
I think a lot of guys would be. What about that guy who wanted to dance with her?
They're going to be ugly guys. They're like, this is my chance to nab a hot chick.
In fact,
because she'll never know how ugly I am.
She's just about to meet such a man.
Yes, she is.
Because
and he just wants a friend.
The next day, he knocks at the door, and he's
incredibly trusting. This scene that comes up, I was sitting there going, look, she's blind, but not necessarily stupid. Just a stranger walks in going, you don't know me.
I was just traveling by. And
and she's like, great, you'll stay in my house and be our friend and live with us.
Are you looking for work? And he's like, I do love the way Bo Svensson plays. I don't understand what that means, but to continue this conversation, yes, work. And she goes, well, you can work for my father and I, and you'll live here, and it'll be great.
It's about, again, another Simpsons reference. It's about like Homer deciding he can, captain a monorail.
One of the great Simpsons episodes.
Oh,
by far.
God.
I call the big one Bitey.
Is it true the tracks will bend?
Not on your life, my Hindu friend.
Sorry, listeners. We just go off.
Monorail. It's the best, man. Phil Hartman doing the music, man, is so great.
The best thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she's like, well, let me touch your face. I want to see. He's like, no, don't. And this is another scene where people bust in and don't even bother to ask what's happening. They just try to kill this thing.
In the case of this one, it's even more egregious because there's no violence happening. And in fact, he's standing stock still while she's the one like aggressively going for the guy's face.
And she's even
they bust in as if he is raping her.
Yeah. They grab the brother grabs an axe and goes after this guy.
And he's not a monster. I mean,
he's a big guy with scars.
He's a big guy with stitches. Yeah. That is the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they do immediately attack this guy.
And even you hear Agatha being like, no, wait, no, it's fine. He's all right. And they're like, listen. Nope, he dies now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Makes me think, like, we don't get to meet much of his family, but clearly Felix and the father are a couple of psychopaths.
They are bloodthirsty.
Die! You don't understand. Look at this thing. Die!
Unclean beast!
Yeah. You touched my sister's arms, you sick son of a bitch.
Like, you sick son of a bitch. Why didn't you let her touch your face?
Yeah, and of course he runs out of there.
Yep.
And then it goes to poor Elizabeth once again just going like, look, Victor, you're obsessed again with something that you won't tell me about. If you don't want to marry me, just say it.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, that's not it. But then in comes at this exact moment, once again, just anytime they're about to talk about their relationship, something involving the creature comes in the door. Because
you know what that is? Excellent script craft. That is the
airtight storytelling. Just boom, boom, boom. Get those story points across. This plot is whipping by.
This thing moves like a train.
I actually feel like the way we're describing it sounds that way, but we're really just jumping from point to point. What we're not talking about is just all the air and silence in between this. There is so much white noise from the studio microphones in this thing.
Yep.
My God.
The cheapness of it shines through. There's a scene in the second part, which we'll get to, but it's, and you could tell that this is Dan Curtis going, trust me, this worked on Night Stalker. But the scene of Dr. Frankenstein wordlessly searching like a catacomb thing, and it just goes on and on and on.
I think
and
I,
it doesn't
I think
even
I
have
fell
a jump
asleep
scare.
and then woke up and it was still going.
Yep.
No, it goes nowhere.
He's not finding blood banks or, detritus or
He's
a
not
woman
finding anything
tied to a bed.
He finds nothing, and we don't even know what these catacombs are, or like what they matter.
Yeah,
to the
what
plot.
building this is? Yeah, whatever.
I think it's even unclear if did he even see the creature go down there, or like I think he
well,
just
he
is like
fires
he must be.
into the darkness
Oh
at some
my
point.
God.
He literally
Oh,
shoots at
He
nothing.
gets pretty trigger happy down the stretch of this thing.
He does. He does. So it's crap. Anyway, moving along.
The father brings the brother who got his arm injured by Frankenstein, the monster.
Yeah.
And he's like, it was a giant that attacked us. And once again, Victor's like, giant, giant, you say? Elizabeth, you can fix his broken arm, right? Just tell him to stay in bed. I have to go right now.
Let's stick around. Gotta go.
Yeah, he is out that door, man.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where he's running around the woods, shooting his gun wildly into the darkness.
Yeah, as you do.
Mm-hmm. So while he's doing this, William is back at home asking Elizabeth, when is my brother going to marry you? You're a nice lady.
Jesus Christ.
You talk about just utter shit, right?
But I will say, when you look at that performance, that's a star in the making. You're like that.
I said right here and then, that is a future sidekick for Scott Baio.
That is a future fundamentalist Christian superhero.
I mean, that really was his career, was being the guy next to Baio.
He also was in the terrible Blue Lagoon knockoff with young Phoebe Cates getting all naked. Paradise.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
That's when you couldn't get a Chris Atkins.
Hey, Chris Atkins said no.
I've already done this material, man. Find a Willie Ames.
For the first time. Who's another curly-headed fellow we can get in here?
William Catt. No, he's too old.
Yeah. Willie Ames, though, surprise, surprise, would not show his dick in the movie. That was the only thing that was...
Of course not. Jesus would have frowned.
Christopher Atkins did it, man. That guy had commitment.
He had 100% commitment.
Yeah. I didn't always feel bad that Brooke Shields had a body double for all that stuff, but Chris Atkins, man, he was out there.
And he's like, all right, I get where she's coming from, and we want her to be safe and protected. Meanwhile, here's my dong.
In fact, they didn't even ask him to do that. He just showed up naked. It was really weird.
Look, Tom Holland did backflips into his audition to get Spider-Man. Chris Atkins just walked into his audition fully nude. He's like, you don't only get this, he says, pointing to his face, you also get this.
And then, of course, who could forget the amazing sequel, Return to Blue Lagoon?
With Mila Jovovich.
Mila Jovovich. Yes.
That
one was not as saucy. I think that was a PG-13.
I didn't watch it, but she is a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
So maybe I missed out. Who knows? Listeners, write in and tell me.
I never saw it either, but I think no one did miss out on that.
Brendan, you're really, you should educate yourself when it comes to the Return of Blue Lagoon.
In fact, the only thing I know of it is I have seen the Siskel and Ebert review where Ebert specifically talked about the movie not going far enough with the nudity. And it's just like,
wow.
Okay, Ebert, you horn dog. Like,
it is very much a him thing.
Yeah.
Or was.
Yeah.
Sorry, R.I.P.
No, there are episodes of that show that I will rewatch on YouTube and go like, Jesus, some of the stuff either one of them say, you would not hear a film critic say today.
No. There would be a canceled thing.
There was something I just remember Siskel and Ebert going like, well, I found her performance quite erotic, Roger. Like, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, Siskel's talking about getting a boner in the theater. Like,
I'm very glad that as a professional reviewer, I'm watch it alone.
Yeah.
No one else around. There was no one else around.
Roger asked for a tape of the movie so he could take it home and inspect it closer.
I had my popcorn and my juju beans, and and my long coat. My very, very long coat.
When I was a kid, I thought those guys have the best job in the world.
Oh, come on. You get solo viewings of movies before people get to, other people get to see them.
Yeah.
It's
And
great.
Roger would always talk about hitting the concession stand beforehand. Also, you
Yep.
took one look at Roger and you knew he hit the concessions before. But
Sir, do you want butter? Of course I want butter.
you see,
And I want it halfway,
yeah.
and then again at the top.
You of course have seen those outtakes on YouTube of the two of them ragging on each other, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, look these up because it is Gene just giving Roger shit for how fat he is.
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
That's horrible.
He's like, but then he's giving him shit too, and it's really funny because it's the same energy they have on the show, but much more personal in the attacks. And it's just like, and then they'll be insulting each other, and then it's like, all right, guys, they're like, tonight on Siskel and Ebert, it's it's
And
that
we're
thing.
back.
Yeah, it'd be that thing because they're shooting like a promo for something. My favorite
Hannah
one.
and her sisters, really quite good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a wrap. You piece of shit.
That's kind of what it was. I think my favorite is where Gene he calls Siskel and Ebert at the movies, and Siskel goes, or Ebert goes, no, it's Siskel and Ebert and the movies, Gene, because they changed the title like 5 or 6
they did.
times. And it's just like, and so then he does it again. He goes, Siskel and Ebert and the movies and the asshole, which is Roger. It's so good. You got to see it.
All right,
You gotta
I'll look this up. You know, I would have rather have watched that than the film.
There's a
that
great
we are
one where he
talking
talks about Siskel's like, we go to McDonald's and Roger just points to the whole menu and says, I'll have one of the following.
Oh, mean. True,
Yeah.
but mean.
He goes, he asked her if he could have a pie with that. She didn't even get to ask him if he wanted to add a pie. Roger was already on it. Like,
I'll have the cherry and the apple.
and make sure it has an apple pie. So anyway.
Man, do I miss those days.
I really do, man.
Of burning the ass out of your mouth. Burning the ass out of your mouth.
Well, when the ass that's in your mouth gets a little too hot.
I just remember getting those pies, which I haven't had in years and years and years. Even if I go to McDonald's, I never think to get the pie
remember
anymore.
Last time I ate one of the pies, but I love them.
Oh
as a
my
kid,
God,
man.
they would scald. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
just hellish.
Yeah, but delicious.
All right, we got to get back on topic.
Anyway.
And then they killed the monster. The end.
No. So after they have this conversation, this baffled me. Like, she goes like, okay, well, good night, William. And then she leaves. And this kid just instantly goes out the door of his bedroom into the night. We're just like, okay, weird. And he's playing with his future ball in the night. And
it actually says Spalding right on it. It says Spalding.
this was the first Spalding ball right here. This was it.
Spalding, the company, founded in Ingolstadt in
Who
18
knew?
Who
Who knew? And who says these movies aren't educational? We've learned things. I'm smarter for no. I'm pretty sure I'm much dumber for watching this.
I owe these films for teaching me things like fire is bad and cigars are good.
You know what? I never burned myself because I watched these Frankenstein movies. So not once, not ever. So he and the creature sees him with the ball. Also, it makes it everything in this movie happens really close to each other.
Yeah.
Because, like, clearly the blind girl and her family live just down the street. Because they run to the dock. They run to Frankenstein to fix the guy's arm. And then Frankenstein, the creature was there. And then he is at Frankenstein's house really quickly here to talk to the boy.
They're
So
just,
like,
I guess it's all a community thing.
well, we basically only see these couple locations. There's not a whole lot going on here beyond the university set from the beginning of the movie.
This is basically a cul-de-sac. This is very much like Desperate Housewives.
I mean,
it's all happening in one little
definitely
neighborhood.
did think about, and the video quality of it has this. This does feel stage bound. Like it does feel.
It feels very much like
like the
they
Frankenstein
filmed
play.
a very accurate, faithful adaptation. It just happened to be a very boring play.
Yeah. And I can imagine.
I have seen Dracula on the stage in very boring community theater productions where I'm like, Jesus.
I just imagine myself in the audience watching this, like Joseph Cotton and Citizen Kane, having ripped up my program and billowing it back and forth.
And then doing, but you're Charles Foster Kane.
Yeah.
With the clap.
That's Dan Curtis.
That's he's like genius.
Yeah.
Even though I know it's shit.
God, one of the great shots in movie history. Man.
Oh my God.
Love.
I still love the crane shot up into the rafters of the two worker guys just going, oh,
yeah.
PU.
And actually, my favorite character in Citizen Kane is the opera training guy. No, 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 no.
We haven't gotten to my favorite character in Frankenstein yet. We're not quite there, but he's coming.
Yeah.
He's coming, ladies and gentlemen.
Is he ever?
Do you know who it is?
I think I have an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get there.
I mean, there aren't that many characters in this thing.
I think I know who did it. Do you? No. Ellery Queen again.
Yeah. Jim Hutton, he popped into this thing. So, Creature. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. So he's William is not scared of him. Is the whole thing here? He's like,
right.
Oh, look at your poor face. I could help you. My brother's a doctor, and I'll be by the way, huge age difference, which is not explained between the child and like 30-year age difference.
Also, the Baron is like in his 80s. So you're like going, wow, the stretch in this family's pretty amazing.
What can I say? I'm still pretty virile.
Come and get it, ladies.
Yeah.
I'd like another heir to the house of Frankenstein.
I still think I got another kid in me.
Oh, no, that's just a kidney stone. I'm stupid and old.
I'm stupid and old. So he goes, well, here, let me get Elizabeth's attention. He starts calling for her, and the monster's like, oh, no, don't do that. And tries to shut him up, and wouldn't you believe it, crushes him to death.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Good God. When this happened, I was like, oh, come on, movie.
But if you see a Frankenstein film that introduces the character of William, no matter what age they portray him, he's going to die.
You know what I appreciated about the last movie we watched? He was dead within 30 seconds of that thing starting.
Dead in 30 seconds. That is the fastest drowning in history. And also about 12 feet from the shore of a lake.
That movie.
Hi, Victor. I'm in a boat. Man, oh, no.
That's another thing that's much sillier in that version than anything in this. It's interesting. That was considered the one of quality. That one's stupid as hell.
It is stupid as hell.
Yeah. So anyway, he runs off. Elizabeth, Victor and Elizabeth find William dead in the fountain.
Yep.
And they're like, oh no, he drowned. And then of course Victor looks at him and goes, no, his neck was broken.
He could have just rolled with it too. He could have said, yep, that's it, drowned, if he wanted to keep, the lie going. But he's like, no, his neck was broken.
And then we get one of way too many scenes where the monster talks to himself to advance the plot.
Yeah.
There's so much, because he goes in the cave, he goes, no, I didn't want to kill that one. I wanted to kill the other one. He was the one who shot me. I shall kill the older one of the two. Victor shall die.
The thing that drove me crazy about this is I'm sitting there watching this going, well, at least now he's got a fire under him. Now we're approaching where he's taken the turn out of innocence into actual villainy.
I thought the same thing. I thought, okay, here we go. No, we're going to extinguish that fire.
The next time he meets Victor,
quick.
They're buddies, and he doesn't even remember him. It's like, what the fucking...
Yeah. Because the creature eventually confronts him.
Yep.
And he's like, look, I didn't mean to hurt William. He was a nice boy. And Victor's like, well, okay, I'll remove that bullet I shot you with earlier from your arm. And
he goes, it's gonna hurt. And he goes, I've been hurt before.
Oh, he talks about with a face like this when everyone screams. He goes, what more hurt could you do to me?
Oh, and you know that was Bo.
Yeah.
Like, that was the scene where he's like going, this is the one. This gets me the Emmy.
What are the odds Bo Svensson auditioned for Flash Gordon?
You mean as Flash?
Yeah, I think he thought he would be up for that.
Ooh, no.
I just have a feeling... Physical type, I have a feeling he went in on that. I
would have cast him as Thun the Lion Man.
The role he was born to play. But anyway, then Victor tells him, because the creature is just like, why do I feel like I know you? And I'm just going, whoa, wait a minute, he doesn't know who Frankenstein is? That was news to me.
And
in
literally 2 seconds before, he was like going, he's the one that I will kill.
Yeah.
And now he's like, and you are, and this is regarding.
This is the first take on the creature we've seen with short-term memory loss.
Yes. Yeah. Suddenly he's Mr. Short-Term Memory from SNL.
He goes, I created you, and the creature's like, you created me? You made me this ugly creature everyone hates and runs from.
You gave me this face, these hands? He's like, yeah.
I didn't say it was my finest work.
I totes did.
So he goes,
I own it.
Well, if you make creatures, then make another one. Make me a friend, like me.
Yeah.
And I just thought, boy, this is the thing. There's so much empty space in this that makes it so boring, and then it just whips through plot points when it actually introduces them. Because it's like, I created
the things
you
that we're all waiting for.
Right to make another creature right now. You're like, whoa, that took not a second for this guy to ask for that.
The only thing I'm kind of digging about this scene isn't the thing about you can't hurt me anymore, is when the creature finally is basically going, yeah, you're going to do this for me. And he's like, no, I'm not. He's like, oh, yeah, you are. When it gets down to the threats, where they're threatening each other, I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like going, if I make this creature, your mate, your friend, then you're going to get the fuck away, and you're not going to kill anybody else ever again.
Stop killing
and he's
people.
Like, all right.
I do like the way he's just like, and hey, stop killing everybody.
Stop killing. And then the creature's like going, okay, and I'll do you one better. If you make her, then great. We're totally fine. We're square.
Yeah.
You change your mind or don't finish, I'm going to fucking kill everybody you love.
Yeah.
And then he gives the line from the novel.
Yeah.
Is like, I will be with you on your wedding night. Like, by
the
way,
just jammed
John,
in here, though.
I do need to apologize for saying that to you so often. I know that you aren't taking it in the right way, but I will be with you on your wedding night.
It has kept me from ever pursuing the concept of marriage because of that threat. They do kind of jam that line in because they feel they have to, and I don't feel it actually lands. It's sort of like, that's a weird thing to say.
Yep.
It's more just like I feel like I wouldn't be like Victor plays it like, dear God, but I would be more just like, what?
I did at one point, because I got the annotated Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and they show you some of the stuff from like her original notebooks with stuff that she edited out. The next line was originally, I like to watch.
I'm freaky like that. That's it.
That's kind of my jam. What?
Who knew? Frankenstein was a voyeur. I guess he is, actually, though.
Well, the creature, he does spend this entire film like peeking in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
I live to peek.
This is working for me.
Yeah, they arrest him on a peeping Tom charge later. Damn.
Oh my God, we put the brain of a peeping Tom in him.
So wait, he's not killing anyone? No, but he's looking in every window
he keeps looking.
That's the stuff.
Oh God, Igor, what brain did you get?
It was something Tom. Yes.
It was a short name. Perv.
There's an SNL.
Are you going to finish those Noritos?
Yeah. That's an SNL sketch. Is the alternate version of Frankenstein where he gets a perv's brain.
He gets a perv's.
That's the stuff.
That's all I want.
Anyway, so let's see. Where were we?
I don't know. You can tell me.
Yeah. So Victor gets to work, and the whole time he's working on building, he puts this other monster together pretty fast too. And he's just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm horrified that this is what I've come to.
Yeah. Another monster? Ugh.
And he's saying this to no one, of course, because everybody just talks to themselves in this movie, which I love.
Yes.
You gotta love that. You should have brought Henry in on this earlier. That would have made sense. Oh, we get Baron Frankenstein. It's his birthday, and he's just bummed. Not a very happy birthday for me.
Since my young child, you may know him as Willie Ames, was killed.
You'll never have that chance to be Scott Baio's buddy.
Have we gotten to the other child actor that we need to talk about? Did we gloss over him?
Which one was this?
Well, there's a scene where the creature interrupts these kids playing with a ball.
We did just sort of gloss over it, but it was earlier.
Well, I mean, it's not an amazing scene, but you look at IMDb.
You want to talk about Leif Garrett?
Yes, the boy that ran away, the girl continues and is like, oh, they're not killed, either one of them, which is refreshing.
Is it bad I just clicked on Leif Garrett's IMDb and was surprised to hear he's still alive? I distinctly remember him dying.
No, I knew he was still alive. I watched his tragic Behind the Music.
Oh, God, yeah. But I thought
he talked about, I killed a guy in a car accidentally because we were so fucking high. Mm-hmm. He was my friend. Mm-hmm. That's a terrible Leif Garrett impression.
Yeah.
But yeah, the child actor was 70s teen heartthrob.
Yeah.
Or would grow into 70s teen heartthrob, Leif Garrett.
I did not recognize him in this. I recognized Willie Ames when he came in, but I did not recognize him until the IMDb. Also,
when you're dealing with an Ames,
Leif Garrett also in Walking Tall, the Joe Don Baker one, not Bo Svensson.
Yeah.
Boy, I wouldn't want to live on the difference of Joe Don Baker and Bo Svensson, though, because both just not great actors. One's tall and one is rotund. And grew bigger.
They're both, I will say, generously sweaty.
Oh yeah, and I can't not think of both the MST3K movies that they did for Joe Don Baker.
Oh my God,
Mitchell and Final Justice are both
Final Justice
primo, like some of my favorite MST3K stuff.
You're Not Ribs, still one of my favorite MST3Ks.
I also love the Runner and Mitchell that they just keep every once in a while going Mitchell.
Well, especially during the world's slowest car chase.
Mitchell.
And they have nothing else to talk about because it's just so slow. Mitchell.
But both we've talked about doing some Joe Don Baker movies over on the Action Shelf. We have yet to get to Joe Don, but it's good.
Yeah.
We'll also, I'm sure, get to Bo Svensson at some point too.
You will.
Yeah, you have to.
That's a lot of man.
That's a lot of man right there. So, you distracted me there with but we did get the Leif Garrett thing. But anyway.
All right, now we're back on track.
Oh, yeah. So he's
going to make that lady.
We have the sad father, and he's like, I can't stay here anymore. It's back to Geneva for me.
Bye, Elizabeth. Yeah. Good luck.
I'll be out of this movie from now on. And he is.
Yeah.
He believes the movie completely. And Elizabeth, this is where she's like, finally she's had enough, and I think she's going, that's it, I don't care, I'm going into that lab. Well, she doesn't. She just knocks on the door.
He's banging on the while he's making the lady, the lady friend for the creature. Elizabeth bangs on the door going,
how big should I make these boobs?
She's on the other side going, Victor, come on. I have always given you space, but this is getting ridiculous. And if we're actually going to be married, I need to know what you're up to, what your secrets are. I want to share your life. And he's like, he actually doesn't answer her at all.
I would say this woman has been understanding to a fault.
Yeah. And she's like, I know you're in there. He doesn't even go away. I'm working. He just doesn't answer. What a dick.
No. And she's like, well, I'm leaving then.
Yep.
Goodbye forever. I'm going back. I'm going to get with your father now.
Ooh, creepy.
It's time to start making another Frankenstein.
Why not? It's been 20 years.
So, yeah. Let's see. Elizabeth goes to the lab, talks to Victor. Then this is where Henry gives him a letter saying she's leaving, even though I think Jody says it here.
Oh, God. The letter. Oh, maybe it's an earlier thing where she gets that letter off the table. At some point, the prop letter is literally the size of one of those circulars you get from Safeway.
I think it's here.
It's this giant prop letter. I'm like, okay, it is a different time period.
Look at this letter.
Yeah, it looks like something they're like with just on it, to Frankenstein from Elizabeth.
It's like an elementary school play. With it looks like a piece of mail that Steve got on Blue's Clues. It's a letter.
It looks like an elementary school child's kite.
Yeah. It is. Here's that letter you asked about. And he hands him the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, so anyway, and it just says she's leaving. He's like, what? I love her. I can't let her leave.
And she hasn't actually left yet because he just goes to another room and she's got her bags. He's like, don't go.
And she's like, okay. I won't.
It is that quick.
It is. He doesn't do anything. He's like, don't leave. I love you. And she's like, okay, great. Then
and she
won't.
said, well, you made your decision. And he goes, but I really do love you. She's like, all right.
Fine. So then he goes back to the lab. And this is where Henry's in the lab with him. And he's just giving it to Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah, he's like, you bastard.
Because he goes, you're going to make another fucking monster? And he goes, yeah. You can make lives. You can make shit
and
live.
He's like, yeah, but I thought this one out. This one's not as strong. I don't even know why they bothered putting lines like that in there because it doesn't actually play into the story whatsoever.
Because this creature doesn't have anything to do with anything at a certain point.
This creature isn't even a creature.
Yeah.
Is a prop. It's a model who sits there and screams for about 2 minutes.
Henry's big thing is he goes, oh yeah. You can make life, man. Yeah, I see it. You can make life. Big goddamn deal. Can you give it a soul?
Yeah, this again.
And that
he
just
is sitting there going, "This is
Frankenstein.
my big speech."
Yeah, but do they
you
have
gave
souls?
It life? But did you give it a soul? The thing that knows right from wrong.
And he goes, first chance I get, I will destroy both of these creatures. And I do like Frankenstein just being like, no, he's far too powerful. You'll never get the chance. I'm like, no, you can just shoot him, actually, and we'll see that at the end. Anybody could have, at any point during this is not the indestructible Michael Sarrazin creature from the last episode.
This certainly is not.
This guy is
just takes a couple of
felled by his one weakness, bullets.
Bullets bad is a famous quote from this creature.
Because you do have to shoot him a bunch, but he'll go down.
Eventually.
Yeah. Go to that time portal where we got the future soccer ball and get yourself a submachine gun or a rocket launcher.
Uzi bad.
You didn't see an Uzi coming, big fella.
Well, I thought the Spalding ball was a big enough leap, but now we've got Uzis in it.
The anachronisms know no bounds in this.
Really
I would love it if all the cops had Tommy guns and it's like the end of Bonnie and Clyde with this creature going down.
In slow motion, the creature, Boswitz is just jerking, squibs going off.
He's going down.
That would have made the ending of this movie pretty exciting.
If he goes down like James Caan on The Godfather.
Yes.
Getting shot.
Take that, Sonny.
Sonny
Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's right. I would love James Caan as the creature. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
He'd be like,
I'll take it any day of the week.
Get the fuck out of my face, Frankenstein. You're gonna build
make me a chick.
You're gonna build.
I
me
need
a
broad.
Yeah.
Make me a broad.
I need a broad on my arm. Okay. Don't tell Al Pacino about this. All right. You didn't need to know.
It's between you and me.
Yeah. So yeah. Then apparently, almost immediately after this, where he's like, no, you can't kill these creatures. They're too powerful. Victor apparently in the interim decides, I'm going to take this right to the edge and then kill this thing in front of the creature.
Okay. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
This turn, they should have had, if they're going to build to this, show him having those kinds of thoughts all the way through,
right,
or whatever. But
have this scene with Henry where he's more conflicted. Instead, he's like, "No, don't even talk about destroying."
The whole time he was sitting there, like expecting, like the creature is watching me at all times, and I can't. Instead, the creature's actually standing there in the room, and he essentially fries the
bride. A part of me, though, that every time he talks about, no, he's everywhere, and he's watching, I'm like, dude, you're giving this guy way too much credit. There's not much going on upstairs. I'm not sure he's covertly surveilling you.
I suddenly started laughing just in my head because I kept thinking of Chris Elliott as the guy under the stairs on early Letterman.
Yeah.
I'm watching you, Dave. I'm watching you.
I did fall down a rabbit hole of those a few weeks ago of just watching an endless reel of the guy under the stairs ones.
Oh, so great.
Great stuff. But yeah, I just this idea that all of a sudden he's convinced that this is some sort of all-powerful puppet master supervillain who can watch him from anywhere and get anywhere. I mean, the fact that he does get to them later is a big stretch. Yes. How was he pursuing them exactly? No one will give this guy a ride. Is he strapped under their carriage like De Niro in Cape Fear?
Or more like Charlie, what's his name? The kid from Dick Tracy. He just hops on the back of that carriage.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Colosimo, was that his name?
I think it's just Cosimo.
Cosimo.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Big time kid actor for a little while.
I mean, Dick Tracy and Hook were big ones for me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I watched those a lot as a kid. So
I know you did.
Yeah. I still am a massive Hook defender.
I know you are. We've talked about this.
We have talked about this. I was just listening to the soundtrack the other day because that that Williams score, man, it's good stuff.
All Williams scores are at least good.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're amazing.
Yep. So let's see. Oh yeah. So he just lights up this creature. Right? Was he give it too much juice?
Yeah, it's like she's screaming.
Yeah,
and he just keeps going with it, and then they trigger the smoke machines to let us know that she's on fire.
This really lacks the simplicity and beautiful tragedy of the other creature just rejecting the monster in Bride of Frankenstein, though.
Yep,
that is just perfect. And then here it's just this doesn't make a lot of sense. It seems
it's just like I went through the whole process, but I'm shutting it down.
Here's the other moment I thought, well, if you're gonna do this, then have your ever-ready pistol at the go and just start pumping him full of lead at this point.
Pumping him full of lead.
Yeah, with your Tommy gun.
Which is, I gotta say, I've read some of your work. This is what you always go to. Your go-to is pumping them full of lead.
Yeah.
All of your scripts. Jesus.
There is some truth in that. My comic book scripts do have a fair amount of bullets being fired by people.
Come on. I mean, it is also typical.
Yeah. But come on. It's
Who doesn't want that?
Yeah. I'm just giving the audience what they want.
Yeah.
Bullets, man. Lots of bullets.
Amen, sister.
Yeah. It's not me, it's the genres I work in. So let's see. Yeah, they started it. Yeah, I did just think, why would you kill this creature in front of the giant and not have a plan to also take him out at the same time? Like, otherwise, you've just committed suicide.
I just gotta say, he did not think this out.
No. For an apparently genius intellect, this is incredibly stupid. And then
should I
make several more stupid decisions down the stretch of this thing?
Yes.
Oh my god. Yeah, from here on out, he's a moron in almost every decision he makes.
He's a fucking idiot, this guy.
Yeah.
This guy.
This fucking guy right here.
This guy.
So, yeah, and he's just like, I couldn't let her live. Also, the other thing he doesn't do is couldn't he have gone like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Instead, he's immediately like, yes, I did it.
That's exactly what I thought.
I destroyed her.
He could have been like, I tried. It didn't work.
At least that would have been a
lied
tactic.
to the creature.
Yeah. This guy isn't very smart. He's given him way, but instead he has to take this noble stand where he's like, I couldn't bring another creature into this world.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, all right, well, you did this to yourself, asshole. Like, basically is the creature's attitude here where it's like, that's it. You're dead.
Yeah,
he's
that's
like,
it.
I will destroy all that you love. And then he immediately goes and murders Henry.
He does.
And the landlady or whatever at Henry's building, which is my favorite part of this thing.
I kind of liked it. Oh, you know what? And I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize to our listeners. We did gloss over my favorite actor.
Oh.
When Victor and Elizabeth go to the little hotel.
We haven't glossed over that yet.
Are we not to that yet?
No, because they're going to leave.
Oh, they're going to leave to go to Vienna.
After Henry is murdered is when they leave on their way to...
Then I'm not apologizing to anybody.
I think it's Geneva they're going to.
Geneva, yes,
Yeah.
Geneva.
Because I kept thinking about they're going to go sign the Accords. Just what I think when.
No, that's when they went to Sokovia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those Accords. Those very real Accords. The Sokovia Accords.
Extremely rare.
Yeah.
Real.
Yeah.
And rare.
And rare. There's only the one that I know of.
Only the one Accord.
Set of Accords. Which is don't be a superhero without permission.
Really.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Yeah. Well, wait. Whoa, no, I am not Team Iron Man on that. This gonna
not.
I won't take that fake political argument. I fully stand with Steve Rogers.
A lot of people do write us saying, "What is your stance on the Sokovia Accord?"
Well, there it is. Guess no more. Let's see. So yeah, then Victor's like, Elizabeth, you got to get out of here. Somebody fucking murdered Henry. So you got to go. And she's like, I'm not going anywhere unless you go with me. Which the other thing I just thought too. This is when you involve the police, right? If I'm Victor Frankenstein, I go, look, there's this guy. You don't have to tell them where he came from. Just say there's a guy after me.
And even if the creature were smart enough to go, oh, he made me. No one's going to buy that story.
Why would
anyone this is a crazy madman.
Yeah.
Crazy madman.
I just think Frankenstein has the upper hand over this creature in so many ways, and he doesn't play it at all. Like, go to the police station, say, keep me in the police station. He's going to come for me, and then shoot the son of a bitch when he's here. You know, like.
Ooh, okay, John, I'm going to need you to back off that language a little. Okay?
That was the bridge too far?
That was the bridge too far.
That son of a bitch. That kind of network
well,
TV
again, you did it a second
That sort
time.
of network TV cursing just won't stand.
I'm just pulling the plug on it. I'm sorry. This was fun. Gotta go. Gee.
I won't stand for that.
Filthy sailor. Garbage mouth.
I did hear one time my grandmother call my grandfather a son of a bitch, and he took such rage at that because that is insulting to my mother.
You know what? I can actually see that point. It's not valid, but I see the point.
Yeah, but I just thought, like, you guys are 50 years into this marriage, and this is where this argument is going. Like, you son of a, because it was such a throwaway. Like, you son of a bitch, how dare you, my mother? Like, yeah.
Was this the stuff you had to recite in court when the murder trial came around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My grandparents.
Awkward.
My grandparents were a shouty, boozy couple. You know, because then the next morning, none of this ever happened. Not in an abusive way. It was they both get drunk and both just shout at each other.
Did they have an imaginary child? Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Yeah. It was a little bit like that. Like, back off some of the tension a little bit, and that's kind of what it was like. Then, I don't need to get in my family's history, but
no, we're moving on.
Yeah. I'll tell you more off mic. But
okay.
So they're like, okay, so they both head out together to go to Geneva. And Elizabeth suggests they stop in this town after they've been traveling for like a day and a half, I think she says. And she's like, we've been traveling for so long, Victor. He's like, no, if we stop, he'll find us. How?
You know what?
How does he do that, though?
He was right.
But how,
he
man?
Right. How? You're just asking the wrong questions. We don't know, and we're never given an answer.
Dan
of course
Curtis.
not.
See, those are just the wrong questions. That's just absolutely the wrong questions about the movie. You're never supposed to ask how or why. If you're saying those things, you're not with it.
Who you think wrote this script? Albert Einstein?
How and why? What do I have, a lifetime to work out this story? We gotta make a picture, baby.
What are you, Thomas Edison? You're expecting geniuses.
Yeah. It's a Frankenstein movie. Come on.
It's a Frankenstein movie.
The trailer for that documentary I mentioned earlier does eventually get in the trailer where they talk about, like, then he was really upset because they only wanted to make horror stuff, and he was like, I don't like this shit, and that's why he went and did, Winds of War, right? That was to be like, this is look, I can do a real thing.
Yeah,
he did not love being the schlock guy at a certain point.
He did not.
Yeah.
And he
can't blame him.
To his credit, he didn't see it as schlock, but he's like, I do other things.
Yeah. I can give you more than the werewolves and the vampires
and I just said doo-doo, and I know it's funny. Go ahead and laugh. I said doo-doo.
So she goes, we should stop in this town. And she's like, don't wait, we're safe. That stupid creature's not following us.
Right.
And she says,
that
in fact,
dummy dumb.
In fact, we should get married tonight. And I'm assuming this is your favorite character, the nosy innkeeper, as I call
the
him.
innkeeper.
Oh dear God, this performance, man.
This is one of those that we love on this podcast. Yeah. It's a guy who has a little scene and he says, "This I'm going all out." This is
Daniels
community theater big.
Is this guy? His name is Edgar Daniels. He did a handful of TV appearances between 1960 and 1977.
He is full on just like going, "Welcome, my friends." It's like, "Oh, wonderful to see everyone. You're such a lovely couple. Man. Why are you here? Are you eloping?"
This guy's so career big and didn't stupid. Last long, but he did a Car 54, Where Are You? He did a Bonanza, a Mary Tyler Moore.
Car 54, Where Are You?
He does an episode of Cannon, and then he finishes up with a performance as Hartford the Solicitor in Young Lady Chatterley in 1977.
Young Lady Chatterley?
Yeah, and then he's out, man.
Well, he gave us a lot to love. We sadly
lost him in July of 2020 at the age of 88.
I'm very sorry, but I would say he gives us about 3 performances worth in his one scene.
Well, he's got 2 scenes because he's there at the wedding.
Oh, that's
too.
Right. Yeah, he is. That's right.
Because his I love his whole thing about like, dude, did I ever hear you saying you wanted to get married? Well, I could arrange that. My good friend is the mayor. In fact, he's more than a friend. He's actually my cousin. Like, whoa!
I know.
This guy is going a lot. It almost seems
TMI.
Like, it almost seems like Robert Foxworth in the scene is going like, what is this guy's deal? Like, he's just like, I don't even know how to respond to this performance.
What's interesting is you think, oh, this is Victor Frankenstein reacting. No, that's just Robert Foxworth looking at this actor going, Jesus Christ.
He is like, hey, you got 6 lines here. Make a meal out of them. Here I go. Yes, all right. Yeah, we'll go over there. Yes. And then it cuts to them getting married by the mayor. So now we have the mayor in the scene as well.
Yep.
And the stupid, this is such bad writing to me, this whole thing about like, well, now that we performed the ceremony, you and you alone, Victor Frankenstein, will come with us to sign the papers making this official at another building. And I'm just like,
yeah,
boy, you are working so hard to get her alone so she can be killed in this thing. And I don't get it. I also don't get why he never suggests, why don't you just come with us?
Yeah, it makes no sense. But his instincts are absolutely correct. And he's sitting there going,
innkeeper, do you have to be there? Does the innkeeper have to be at the signing?
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, just leave him with her. At least that's something. I mean, the monster might have still killed him, but...
Right, true.
But still, at least that would be in it. There's no even, he's just like, no, I won't sign the paper. And they're like, well, you have to. And he's like, I won't. And they're like, you have to. And he's like, okay, I will.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, it is sort of weirdly them leaning into historical accuracy. Like, you guys can't stay in this room together unless you're married.
We're not going to like this shit, all right?
Yeah. I know you want to get some of that, but unless you put a ring on it.
Am I right? Dennis Miller. Oh, Dennis Miller is the mayor, everyone.
Oh, no.
I can't Brad, you're going to get married in here?
Hey, babe. Babe. Hey, babe.
Let's see that kind of screws put to a guy like this since the Spanish Inquisition, babe.
Babe.
Yeah. The man loved a historical reference, too.
He did. Actually, that is very...
Yeah.
It's very true.
Oh, God, yeah. The references. The nonstop references.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Who is this guy? Robespierre? And you're like, oh, great. Babe.
He does agree, and he goes, Elizabeth, go back to the hotel room, lock the door. It'll be fine.
It's not.
It's not.
Oh, God, I spoiled it. Shit.
I guess because she does lock the door, but apparently didn't lock the window that the creature has, I guess, we don't see it, shimmied up the side of the wall, because we do establish this is on at least the second floor of this building, if not higher. and broken in and murdered her.
Yep.
Great. It just feels, all of this, the whole ending of this just feels obligatory now. I'm like, and
they're hitting all the right beats, except
but it just feels like
obviously,
like at this point it's just like, well, we got to wrap this thing up.
Hitting all the beats except for Antarctica, except for the ship.
Oh, we can't afford that. So no, instead it just turns
except
into
for Tom Baker with a couple of flintlocks.
Oh, fucking A. We needed that, man. We needed that in this bad. No, instead we get Robert Foxworth with his pistol going.
Yep.
Never also thought maybe Elizabeth, there's a pistol in this room. You might want to use that, because we established it's like in his bag.
Never used a pistol in her life. But
there's
is the
so
thing
many
where
ways she could have protected herself, and they do nothing with it.
Just like before, when we had the creature saying, like, I will get my revenge on that guy, and then he meets him and goes, who are you?
Yeah.
This is another thing where Frankenstein...
Because he sees him out the window, we should say, after he finds Elizabeth's body, he sees the creature out the window, he's like, let me get my gun and go down there and deal with this thing.
But that's what happens is that he's like, I will get revenge. It's all my fault. I'm going to kill this thing. And then when they get together, it's like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, we get this extended...
It's all my fault.
We get this extended chase, and they go into this place full of statues, and we get a lot of like, where are you, you monster? And even the creature being like, I'm over here, Victor. If you could ever find me, you'll never defeat me. Like this whole... And then, when they're together, he's like, I'm really sorry, man.
You know what? This is on me.
Yeah.
This is on me. I made you, and I'm sorry.
I let you down.
He actually says, I'm a shitty dad.
Yeah. I just wasn't there for you, son.
One thing I don't about...
too bad, because he's already tripped and fallen and been impaled by what looked to me like a piece of rebar, which seemed odd for the time as well.
Yeah, they're in some sort of crumbly, whatever, courtyard thing.
Yeah.
But it is this accidental death for Victor, essentially.
Yeah.
After saying, I'm sorry about all this. And they shoehorn in the whole thing of like him having a soul and forgiveness. And I'm like, it's a little late in the day to be building your themes because we have 5 minutes left.
This thing
but
is
he's like,
to
he
its
says
conclusion,
to the creature as he's dying, he goes, no, you have to keep living. You should go into the mountains where you can be free. And he's like, and be a good person and forgive. I thought the
end of this was going to end on a shot of him in the mountains, didn't you?
I did too. I mean, it worked, but instead the creature picks him up, totally bridal carries him up
and then,
some steps.
Out of nowhere, a whole squad of cops have shown up with their guns.
We have never seen law enforcement until this one.
And they're not even characters. I'm not sure they say anything.
They don't say a single fucking word.
Shoot the son of a bitch. They do what I say. And they just light this creature up, man.
They do. And bracket brow.
And he's getting shot in the chest. And I thought, well, geez, he's not dying. Maybe he is indestructible. But then we cut to the one guy with a rifle who puts one in his head and ends him.
Yeah. And then it's just credits.
And there's this... They do the way they cut to it's such a needlessly badass shot of this guy with the rifle being like, got him.
Yeah.
Like just with this like satisfied as he
he does tilt the barrel back and blows the smoke off of it. Yeah.
That's it.
All in a day's work for generic cop guy.
Hey, thanks, Department Monster Hunter. All right, I gotta hang on, fellas. I gotta get out of here. There's a werewolf 2 towns over and needs.
So again, as you said, John, we see that the creature is not invulnerable. It just takes a couple of bullets.
And as he's right before he dies, the creature says, "Forgive me," and I thought, that's a weird thing for him to say.
Yeah, forgive me. Forgive me.
Have we established a religious thing where he's talking to God?
They had dropped little things, but again, they didn't play up themes in this. This is just boring.
You can't do this ending and expect it to matter at all.
Boring TV movie nonsense.
Yeah. And then credits and Elvira's back.
I didn't get Elvira, so lucky you.
Yeah, I did. Very lucky me. She was snarky about how bad this was, and
it's boring as fuck.
God, it's so boring.
And it's shot on video, so it looks cheap.
Yep. It's bad.
And it's faithful, but again, there are ways to do that story that are thrilling.
I am like 9 out of 10 star review on IMDb because it's faithful. who gives a shit? It's boring as hell, man.
I'd say that's a low bar.
Yeah.
I mean, even the guy that's always like, "Oh, you got to stick to." I'm like,
we
no,
still value entertainment over faithfulness, right? If it's a good story.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, the 1931 movie isn't exactly faithful to the novel.
No,
but it's such a good movie.
It's a great watch.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're not yet out of Frankenstein adaptations, although next week is a much different turn. As, yes, we do take on Blackenstein.
Woo! Chicka chicka down down. Down down. Down down.
Yes.
I heard that Blackenstein's one bad mother.
Hey, shut your mouth.
I'm just talking about Blackenstein.
No, then I can dig it. Yeah, Blackenstein.
I have a feeling this makeup job, if I remember correctly, this will be fighting that one Hammer film, whichever one that was with the terrible. This is Blackenstein's makeup is laughably bad in my memory.
Depending on which version you look at or which poster, this movie is either called Blackenstein or Black Frankenstein.
Black Frankenstein, right?
It's unclear. In fact, here's a poster that says both. So I don't know.
One that says African American Corpse Man.
I think that was a foreign release. That's a direct translation from the foreign title.
So next week, Blackenstein.
Wait. It's from the movie itself, which is called Blackenstein, the Black Frankenstein.
I'm glad they explained it. Jeez,
it feels like somebody else out.
Who was unclear on the concept?
Blackenstein. Oh, wait a minute. I am looking at the Blackenstein makeup right now, and we'll talk about it a lot. I'm sure
we will be talking about it next week, ladies and gentlemen.
But thankfully, I think it's a blissful 93 minutes or something like that. Too.
Yeah. Skip this one. Don't watch it.
Don't
avoid Dan Curtis.
87, even better. Don't watch either one of these television adaptations of Frankenstein. They're terrible.
Unless you want to see young Jane Seymour in Frankenstein: The True Story.
I can't blame you. Then just watch part 2.
And if you're just a huge Bo Svensson fan, I think you could probably still skip this one.
Yeah, I think there's still better to watch. But yes, it's Blackenstein next week on Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. But that is going to do it for this week's episode. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And remember, there are such things as monsters.
Please don't be dead.